Sarvebhyo Namaha. Good evening, friends. We have gathered here at the Gokhale Institute of Public Affairs to participate in the launch of a few recent publications of Preksha Pratisthana. The books being offered to the world today include 2 volumes of the acclaimed Jnapaka Chitrashale series, the volumes 7 and 8 translated into English by a team of enthusiasts and scholars. The other books are the essential Katha Sarit Sagara, primarily based on Professor A.R. Krishna Shastri's Kannada classic Kathamrita, and the other is an English translation of Shatavadhani Dr. R. Ganesha's Kannada work, Samskrita Kavigala Kavya Mimamse, rendered into English under the title Poets on Poetics. The Preksha calendar for the year 2025 is also being launched today. To begin the proceedings, I call upon stage Sri Kashyap N. Nayak, an advocate practicing under the High Court of Karnataka and also one of the legal advisors and trustees of Preksha Pratisthana, to please sing the invocation song.
अर्थचतुष्टय शिक्षा अर्थचतुष्टय शिक्षा अर्थचतुष्टय शिक्षा साक्षात्कृत यज्ञदान तपसां दीक्षा अर्थचतुष्टय शिक्षा साक्षात्कृत यज्ञदान तपसां दीक्षा वाग्वृत्तित्रयरक्षा प्रेक्षा सौजयति भारती पदलाक्षा प्रेक्षा सौजयति प्रेक्षा सौजयति प्रेक्षा सौजयति प्रेक्षा सौजयति. Thank you.
अशीत्यधिक वर्षाणां वयसि कस्मिन्नपि समारम्भे एतादृशी अद्भुता प्रार्थना न श्रुता. समारंभ अनुगुणा एवञ्च तदुपरि तस्य कण्ठमाधुर्यं रागचातुर्यम्.
Thank you, Kashyap, for that soulful rendering. The Sabhadhyaksha has blessed the invocation by his words of appreciation. The invocatory verse is penned none other than Shatavadhani Dr. R. Ganesh to capture the aims and objectives of Preksha Pratisthana in keeping with the Bharatiya Parampara which it tries to represent. To deliver the welcome address, I now call upon Sri Shakaranta, a software employee, a scholar of Kannada literature, a poet of remarkable merit, and also one of the advisors of and trustees of Preksha Pratisthana.
Good evening, everyone. I'm happy and I'm pleasure to welcome you all for this event. So every year we anticipate for this event, especially to launch our yearly calendar and also many of the titles of the year. And today I'm very happy that we are bringing out 4 books and our 2025 calendar based on the Hampi sculpture of Vijayanagara dynasty. First of all, I would like to invite our chief guest, Dr. H.V. Nagaraja Rao, world authority on Sanskrit grammar and poetics. So a warm welcome to you, sir, on behalf of Preksha Pratisthana. So we have Jaisima KR. So he has come from far away from Delhi to speak about our Gnapak Chitra Shale volume 7 and 8 translation. So he's a assistant consultant to the Economic Council for Prime Minister of India. So warm welcome to you from Preksha Pratisthana. Another speaker of today, Anand Vishwanath. So he'll be speaking on poets on poetics and also on essential Katha Sarisagara. He is a research scholar, doctoral scholar in Jain University, and he has a lot of accomplishments, and he will be knowing in detail when he speak about the books. So a very warm welcome on behalf of Preksha Pratisthana. So we have our advisor, our mentor, our guru on stage, Shatabdani, Dr. R. Ganesh, who needs no introduction. A warm welcome to you, sir. And today is a special day with respect to, today is a special day, that's what I'm, special day because DVG has been seeing our work, and every year, every book launch event, he is kind of seeing and checking whether all the 8 volumes are done or not. Right? At the same spirit, Hari Ravikumar has stood behind the mammoth effort to translate all the 8 volumes, and we are all very happy to accomplish this milestone. And today he'll be speaking on the effort that went behind from last 7 years, right, to complete this 8-volume series of Gnapak Chitra Shale. We also have our advisors, Nagaraja S.R. Ramaswamy and Professor L.V. Shantakumari. I extend a warm welcome to both of you on behalf of our Pratisthana. Also, we have Arjun Bharadwaj, who will be explaining our calendar. Along with that, he is one of the main translators of Katha Sarisagara that is getting launched and released today. So along with that, we have members from the A.R. Krishna Shastri, Professor A.R. Krishna Shastri's family. Grandsons are here. I express warm welcome to both of you. And also we have our team of scholars and translators who have come here, who have contributed to Gnapak Chitra Shale series or Katha Sarisagara and many more works. So I welcome all of them. So I would also like to give a brief introduction and kind of the report on what we have done so far from the Preksha Pratisthana. So a group of friends, we started to blog on preksha.blogspot.com in 2010. That's how we started informally, where we kind of infrequently wrote many articles, and that piled up and became a good initial mass to start a formal entity in 2016, when we started Preksha Pratisthana as a formal entity and an NGO which is dedicated to especially online journal as well as publication in the field of Indian philosophy, culture, art, literature, and many related aspects of our culture. So in these 8 years, So we have produced around 2,500 articles in our online journal preksha.in. So from preksha.blogspot.com to preksha.in, we had a 6 years of journey, and then from 2016 till now, it's 8 years of journey, and the online journal has got more than 2,500 articles. And along with that, we started publication of books, so which has seen nearly 40 titles as of now, and it got many editions of publications also. So that is the achievement with respect to publication of books. Along with that, we started undergoing like a lot of field visits with respect to our sculptures and architecture, and thought of coming up with a yearly calendar combining our poetry as well as our sculpture. And it is the 8th years of calendar that we are releasing today. I'm happy to share that as well. So in all this journey, like we have got support from many directions and dimensions. So both financial as well as scholarly support and advisors, and many friendly environment that we got through which we could achieve this. And to just give a number, we have got support from 50 plus scholars who have helped in translating and coming up with original articles and research works. So along with that, predominantly we have done online journal in the aspect of research as well as in the translation. So one of the main goals was to take our great works in the Indian languages to the world. That is translation of Kannada, Sanskrit, and many Indian languages work to English. So that has been predominantly our part of online journal, and as part of that, you are seeing these titles coming out today. So I would like to welcome you all once again, and thank you.
Thank you, Shisha, for that succinct report. Without further ado, we come to the main part of today's evening, that is the launch of Preksha Publications. I request our chief guest, Dr. H.V. Nagaraja, to please offer the books and the calendar to the world. I request the translators of the essential Katha Saritsagara to please come on stage. Thank you, everyone. It is our bounden duty to present a few complimentary copies to people who have supported in our journey thus far. As was evident from the introductory note that Srisha delivered, whatever Preksha Pratisthana has been able to accomplish all these years is singularly due to the help it has received from many, many people. So I would request Shatavadhani Dr. R. Ganesh to first present the complimentary copies to Nadoja S.R. Ramaswamy and Professor L.V. Shantakumari, please. I would now like to call on stage Professor A.R. Krishna Shastri's grandchildren who have graced this program with their presence, Sri Somashekar and Sri Nagesh, the grandchildren of Professor A.R. Krishna Shastri. I would request Sri Nagaraja also to please come on stage. Preksha has been very fortunate to receive not just the guidance of eminent people who are old, but also by youngsters. We have had several children who have read our books, given us constant feedback, and helped improve the overall quality of our publications. So, on behalf of all those children who have helped us immensely, I would like to call on stage Kumari Aditi Bhatt to please receive a complimentary copy. Several other children have helped in this endeavor. Hamsa Bhatt, Sri Gauri, Mayank, Sudhamshu, Rashmi Bhatt, and many other children. So, on behalf of the entire family of Preksha Pratisthana, I extend our heartfelt gratitude to each one of them. I would ask Sri Srinidhi Ramachandra to please come on stage. He has helped us in all our publications. The Jnapaka Chitrashale series that has seen the culmination today has been fortunate to be decked up and by the illustrations of the talented artist Sri Ashok U. Ashok, I would request to please come on stage. And also Sudarshan Muralidhar, please. Sudarshan Muralidhar, our dear friend, has also contributed sketches. Sri Hari Shankar from Professor A.R. Krishna Shastri's family is also here. Please come on stage. Thank you everyone for cooperating in this endeavor. We now have the first presentation by Sri Anand Vishwanath. He will be introducing the books The Essential Katha Saritsagara and Poets on Poetics. A brief introduction to Anand. Of course, it was done at the beginning of the program, but some more words are in order. Anand holds a bachelor's degree in electrical and electronics engineering from BITS Pilani and a master's degree in engineering from Arizona State University. He worked at Intel for 4 years before dedicating his time entirely to Sanskrit studies. He has a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in the Sanskrit language as well. He has worked at the Samskriti Foundation and the Center for Ancient History and Culture, Jain University. He is now pursuing his PhD on the narrative aspects of the Bharatiya Katha Sahitya. And most importantly, he holds a reading session in Sanskrit every day where he introduces various works of Kavya and Shastra. So he is very generous with his time. Anand was conferred with the Young Historian of Science Award in 2021 for his work on the seminal text Vriddhagarga Jyotisha. His other interests include several languages, Pali, Prakrit, even the Chinese language has not escaped his interest, Chinese calligraphy, Buddhism, and he also plays on the Veena. Hearing all this will surely make us think that Anand deserves a story to be written about him, and it is only befitting that he is introducing what is perhaps the foremost book of stories. Anand, please.
नमस्सभायै ज्येष्ठेभ्यः कविभ्यः शास्त्रकृद्भ्यः सहृदेभ्यः मम नमांसि. As it is a customary thing to start with a Mangala Padyam, I will do one Mangala Padyam. Panamata Panaya Pakupita Goli Chalanaggalagga Patibimbam Tasasu Nakhatappanesu Ekatasathanuthalam Luddham. This may sound like Sanskritam, may not, because it is Paishachi. So this is supposedly the Padyam which was the Mangala Padyam of Gunadhya's Brihat Katha. We have no way of verifying it, but just to see how it sounds in Sanskritam. Chaya Pranamata Pranaya Prakupita Gauri Chalanagra Lagna Pratibimbam Dashasu Nakhadarpaneshu Ekadashatanudharam Rudram. So we know that Shiva Parvati, they are the they come at the beginning of Katha Saritsagara, but they are the undercurrent all through Brihat Katha and eventually Katha Saritsagara. Brihat Katha. What is Brihat Katha? I hope most of you would know, just for the sake of completion. We know about Ramayana Mahabharatam. Brihat Katha is one of the three main streams of thought or Katha Sankalanam in Bharata Desha. Any number of kavyams are based on Ramayana Mahabharatam, but also Brihat Katha. So there is one shloka like this: Shri Ramayana Bharata Brihat Kathanam Kavin Namaskurmaha Trisrota iva Sarasa Saraswati Spurati Yair Bhinna So Tripathaga, like Ganga has three flows, streams. Ramayana Mahabharatam is well known, but Brihad Katha was equally well known 1000 years ago or even later, but somehow we are not taking cognizance of it today. Now, coming from Brihad Katha of Gunadhya till today, the book I am presenting about a little bit. So, Brihad Katha is a collection of hundreds of stories. If you read it, it will go in and out of it. The nested loop method of presentation, which we are familiar with from Panchatantra, Hitopadesha, etc., is very much there in Brihad Katha also. The original Brihad Katha was in Paishachi by Gunadhya. That is known. Then the second stage of how it evolved is mostly like it had redactions, etc., in Sanskritam as well as Paishachi also. But none of those are available. Then comes the third strata where Kathasarit Sagaraha of Somadeva, Brihad Katha Shloka Manjari of Buddhaswami, then Brihad Katha Manjari of Kshemendra are quite famous. Kshemendra's work and Somadeva's work, they are complete, whereas Buddhaswami's only partially is available, and it led to various other versions also. For example, Perungadai in Tamil, it is also not fully available, it is partially available. That is there. And then Durvinita, one of the Rajas of Karnataka, had a complete translation in Sanskritam. Very unfortunate that it is not available. So that is how I would see the third layer of propagation. Then comes our scholar A.R. Krishna Shastri, who thought that condensing it in Kannada, that is the Matrubhasha of people of Karnataka, is very useful in terms of propagating the Katha Sahityam, because Katha Saritsagara is quite huge itself. In fact, this is a summarization of original Brihad Katha, and it itself has 22,000 shlokas. So we do have the 22,000 shloka version still available. So Krishna Shastri thought, okay, let me give a good synopsis of all of every taranga. By the way, the division of Katha Saritsagara, similar to the Parva, Kandam, etc., we have 18 Lambakas, and each Lambaka is divided into Tarangaha. So the subunit is Taranga. The Taranga word is interesting because Katha Sarit Sagara. So Sarit River, Sagara, all these water bodies, and we have Tarangas as the division. See, this is where it is so beautiful how our naming conventions are even. Anyway, so he wrote the Kathamrita, and in fact he says, I am not randomly giving the name Kathamrita. So this comes up as a Mangala Padyam in Katha Sarit Sagara also. Idam Guru Girindraja Pranaya Mandara Andolanat Purakila Kathamritam Haramukambuder Udgatam Prasahya Rasayantiye Vigata Vigna Labdhardhayo Dhuram Dadhati Vaibudhim Bhuvi Bhava Prasadena Te. So Kathamritam is here, the word. So instead of saying Katha Sarit Sagara Sangraha or Sagara Sara and making it even more large, when the work is trying to compress it, I think he compressed the name also as Kathamritam, which is very befitting, I think. So he has taken this, and I personally am not very good at reading Kannada very fast, but I can vouch for this. I have read 2 Lambakas completely in the original Sanskritam and a few of the summarizations of A.R. Krishna Shastri. It is extremely concise but covers all the important points. In Kannada I have read. And now coming to the next stage, now Kannada is becoming difficult, which is, we know how it is going down. So we have to go to English now. And that is what has happened. But the work done by Arjun and the other people here, it is very nice because there is no show-off kind of thing. It's the language, I would say, is very lucid. We can easily read and understand in a go. So the English translation of Kathamrita. So we are at the 5th stage from Gunadhya. Hopefully the parampara is there and we are inspired to write original kathas also. Now coming to Krishna Shastri's book as well as this, because this is just a Rupantaram. So the content wise, if I comment on it, it is applicable to both of them. First is his introduction, which needs some highlighting. His introduction is very comprehensive. In fact, there was a lot of scholarship going on during those times in 40s, 50s, 60s, because people were discovering all of these old texts. Many of them were in manuscript form, etc. So you can imagine, for example, Dr. Shatabdani Ganesh had a series, several series on Dr. Raghavan's works on different aspects. In fact, now things are easy. I can just go on archive.org and access something. The way these scholars are, access this information, going around begging for things from people where they wouldn't give, it's very difficult, and the achievement is remarkable. So his introduction, from whatever he could access up to that point in time, is very comprehensive. So what all does he discuss? Very briefly I'll mention. He discusses about the Kathasarit itself. What is the division? Why do we name the division as a Lambaka? Taranga is understandable. What is this Lambaka? Lambaka may be a perpendicular vertical line in a triangle, which we call as a perpendicular. But that doesn't make any sense, obviously. So what is it? And there is a Lambha also used in some other places. So, so getting something, in the Lambha, Labha, that is there, but this is Lambaka, Alpaprana Ba. So these things, he discusses that and the structure of it. For example, Parva, Upaparva, etc. in Mahabharatam, Sarga, Kanda, etc. in Ramayanam. But here that is not there. We have Lambaka and Tarangaha. So he discusses that, and then obviously the other adaptations of similar time frame. Brihat Katha Shloka Sangraha by Buddha Swami. It is said to be a Nepal version, whatever survived in Nepal. He has made a translation of that, and there are different opinions, but it is said that he might be closer to the original Brihat Katha. There are differences in opinion. Then Brihat Katha Shloka Manjari of Kshemendra is one more. He discusses about that. In fact, that is where there are few sentences where he is not too rigid about expressing his views. For example, in Brihat Katha Manjari, when he discusses that, he says something like, Kshemendra concisely mentions things, but suddenly if there are women in the picture, he will just keep on describing it on and on and on for... This is Krishna Shastri, that is how he... So I like some of these things that he doesn't hold to himself, just expresses it. In fact, I have found it personally also. This I didn't find because I haven't read a huge portion of Brihat Katha Manjari, but it's very weird sometimes how he compresses important things and just keeps on elaborating on things which okay, fine. I mean, there is one Shmashana. Shmashana Vivaranam is for some 25, 30 Padyani, and I think he is too interested in the Jugupsa, Sthayi Bhava, whatever. So, because it's already a very concise work, 2500 shlokas, right? That is what I read. Yeah. So, and a little bit about Perungadai by Konguvelir. Konguvelir Perungadai is available. There are 5 parts in it. I have read a little bit of it from Tamil Virtual University. Then he talks a little bit about some of the translations. Tani's translation is still famous. And Kannada translations also exist. And there are various issues, whether some of them are complete or in some manner they need to be improved upon or whatever. He has his Manodharma. So he talks about them also. And then one important thing which I found very interesting, I didn't know before reading the intro, is Nepala Mahatmyam. And what it talks about Gunadhya. Because Gunadhya, Vararuchi are very important characters in the Prathama Lambaka of Kathasarit Sagara. But Gunadhya's place through various other paramparas, Katha paramparas. Nepala Mahatmyam is one. It's very interesting. He discusses that. Then he goes on to Paishachi. So the Padyam I told before, right? Paishachi is interesting for various features. Even though it is supposedly based out of Shauraseni, my personal take is different. It seems to be older and kind of akin to Magadhika, which is Pali. I don't call it Pali, I call it as Magadhika. He discusses about Paishachi. Maybe there are variations. Chulika Paishachi is something which is also discussed by the Prakrita Vaiyakaranaha. And there are collections of small snippets of Paishachi falling out of some of the bigger works. For example, I am researching on Kuvalayamala Katha. It's a Maharashtri Katha, but in between there is a small snippet of Paishachi. Similarly, Leelavati. is also a katha. There also there is 5 or 6 shlokas of Paishachi. In fact, I have told this to Dr. Shankar also. We were laughing together because the 5 Paishachi shlokas there, it has a version of the emperor has no clothes, that version. So we have our own katha, that is in Leelavati. And so he discusses all of these related things with Paishachi, other Prakritams, how it relates to Sanskritam, because all of the major renderings are in Sanskritam right now. Then, of course, there is one more. He should be mentioning this, I think. I am not very sure. Vasudeva Hindi, I have mentioned it. Vasudeva Hindi is supposedly an authentic Jain version of the Brihat Katha. Even though Vasudeva is marrying so many women there. I mean, correct. Naravahana Datta. Udayana is at least okay in that number. This is 26, 100, how much ever you want the number of stories, those many women will be there as the main. Then he talks about some of the other things, like is it historical, is it complete katha, or is it a mix? Because this is an interesting aspect in so many of these kavyams. So even in Ramayana, Mahabharatam, Brihat Katha, the 3 main things, kavyatvam, kathatvam, itihasatvam are in various proportions. So here Satavahana and Pratishtanam, actual location of Pratishtanam also, because there are actually, he mentions 2, I have also heard one more. So 3 Pratishtanams in history from Vedic times. So he mentions about the location, timeline of Vararuchi, Nanda, Satavahana, all these characters, whether it matches, etc. Then obviously he goes on to Katha Akhyayika, the form itself. What is it? How do these people, Dandi, all of these people talk about it. Then evolution of Brihat Katha itself. Then later on lessons from the Katha Sarit Sagara. In fact, there is a nice geometry like diagram here. Yeah. So there is a triangle and then one more triangle and vertices are marked and these people have translated it exactly like that. So it is not just about a love triangle, it is about any triangle which causes problems for us. So that is what, but Krishna Shastri's writing there is very enjoyable, very much relatable, and we do find those things in Katha Sarit Sagara also. So, and he talks a lot about relationship, marriage, how marriage leads to problems, all of that, and societal issues, etc. Then the place of Katha Sarit Sagara in literary world. How does it fare literary in terms of literary thing? In fact, that is where there is a translation here in English. I read that part. In Greater India was the storehouse of Katha Sahityam. We know that very well. In fact, Panchatantram, starting from that, how it spread to Persia, then Arabia, then some of them were re-imported also in some other form. All of that he discusses. Then, I don't know for whatever reason, he ends the introduction with a note on Vetala. Vetala plays an important role. The 12th Lambaka has the entire Vetala Panchavimshati in Katha Sarit Sagara. I have read about half of it. It's very interesting though. So he mentions that. Then, okay. So this is his introduction, and as I mentioned, he is very, very concise, but still manages to capture the entire essence of each Taranga very, very tightly. And as far as the translation is concerned, it's very lucid. You can just read through it as if you are reading a storybook, because it is a storybook, just more concise. Another aspect I would like to mention here is the translators have retained the important non-translatable words. See, some of them like this, Apsaraha, Mataha, Swargaha, Brahmanaha, Lagnaha, so many of them. In fact, there is a glossary of all these words with more explanation at the end. Because if you put one word, it sounds very jarring. Whereas you retain the word, explain it in a few sentences perhaps, then we have a good way of translating it. Because I find that there is a Rakshasa word, they have retained it. But Gita Press translated with ogre, O-G-R-E. I am reading like thousands of times this word ogre, and it's so painful to read. So that part is not there. It's even for Indians, actually mainly for Indians I should say, maybe others should keep on referring to the glossary. We have no problem because we have these words with us and we can be very happy. In fact, the names are also translated by someone like A.K. Warder. He'll say, the bliss of the dragon. I mean, Sheldon Pollock, correct? All these people. The bliss of the dragon. Hey, what? Am I so dumb? Then Nagananda and the Madri, something will pop out. So all of this is so painful. So I'm very happy and I appreciate the translators for doing this one. And there are two more things to mention before I wrap up. There are 3 appendices originally by Krishna Shastri himself. One is a Sankshepa Anuvada of Dashakumara Charitam. In fact, I was talking to Arjun and asking why has he included, in fact. Maybe because it is a Katha Sahityam, maybe he wants to give a flavor of something other than Brihat Katha. And of course, as Dr. Shatabdhani mentioned even in his previous talk on Brihat Katha with Atharva Forum, I think almost all, if not all of Dashakumara Charitam is based on Brihat Katha only, Katha Sarit Sagara only. So probably he thought that it is very fitting to include in the appendix. Then Katha Mukham part of Brihat Katha Shloka Sangraha of Buddha Swami has also been presented. And one more interesting thing is Subhashitani of Katha Sarit Sagara have been collected together as in the appendix. Then these translators here, they have given a guide to pronouncing Sanskritam words because primarily the audience might be some people who may not completely know how to pronounce Sanskritam. So with that I end my presentation on the first book, which is Essential Kathasarit Sagara. The original is Kathamrita because it is Kannada. Now going on to the second book, Sanskrita Kavigala Kavya Mimamse. That is the original title by Dr. Shatabdhani Ganesh. It has been translated by Vidwan Shashikiran as Poets on Poetics, Literary Aesthetics Envisioned by Sanskrit Poets. That is the byline he has given. Now, Kavya Mimamse, in fact, one of my friends asked, Jainisha, is it a translation of Rajasekhara's work? No, it is not. Because by Kavya Mimamsa, the word has become so rudhi with Rajasekhara that we don't think anything beyond. But no, Kavya Mimamsa is something about Kavya Vishleshanam and how to analyze it, understand it. Now, what is the prayojanam of this work? That itself will translate to the Vaishishtyam of this work. Because the prayojanam is this. We have from Bharata's Natya Shastram to Jagannatha and later on also, because for some reason Jagannatha seems to be a full stop when everyone is talking. But I think no, there are many people, including Dr. Shatabdhani and our chief guest here, who have written on various aspects of Kavya Shastram and also the Lakshyam Kavyam itself. So that is there. The Parampara, Kavya Shastra Parampara is very much there. But do the Kavis themselves have anything to say about how they perceive Kavyam or Kavya Shastram? That is the prayojanam here. Now, there is an intersection in some cases, for example, Dandi, Anandavardhana, Rajasekhara, Bhoja, Vishwanatha, Jagannatha, all of these have been Kavayaha, also Kavya Shastrakaraha. So, we do get this. But the problem with some of these is, not problem, they will have a template which they will follow. Kavyasya prayojanam kim, then Kavya karanam kim, Tisraha vrittayaha, Gunaha, Doshaha. This is not bad, but they may fall back to the template. It may not sometimes be free-flowing. The thoughts that they really have, they put it in their work. So, Dr. Shatabdhani Ganesh, what he has done is, he has, in his immense research across the years, he has collected padyams, shlokas, from the works of the Kavis themselves. Not the Shastram. Shastram is there, which is good. But the Kavis themselves, do they say something about their art? How they perceive their natakam or kavyam, etc. So that is the prayojanam of this book. The translation, of course, by Shashi Kiran is quite good. I'll come to that in a bit. Now, how many kavayaha are there in this? If I am not wrong, please pardon me if I am wrong. The list is, I think, 34. 36, okay. 34 plus. Abdi, plus potukla. Okay. When I counted the TOC, explicit names were 34, but no, there is a final part where Subhashitam, so there is a miscellaneous assorted category also. So yeah, it should be more than 34 for sure. those number of kavis, so it's a huge span actually, starting from Adi Kavi Valmiki to Neelakantha Dikshita. Neelakantha Dikshita lived 350 years ago, roughly.
Incidentally, he hails from same family. He is the 11th, directly 11th descendant from Neelakantha
Neelakantha Dikshita, no, but I cannot even talk about Neelakantha Dikshita because the list is so long. I was reading it and na samapyata eva. He is writing 24 pages about Neelakantha Dikshita's views on Kavyam. Shashi Kiran's translation is 30 pages. So, but I was reading in and out of it somehow, but it's extremely enjoyable. That is what I would say. Okay. Now coming to the Chayanam of the Kavaya, what was the criteria? Though I am not completely sure, they are mentioning it before and after. There is no real criteria in terms of any other Bheda. For example, they hail from all over Bharatam. Nothing like South Indian, North, East, West, nothing like that. And across time, several centuries or maybe thousands of years. And different Varnaha. There is no Varna Sankochaha for this selection. And there is also no Siddhanta Sankochaha. Siddhanta. So there is only Vaidikaha. No, nothing like that. There is there are Brahmanaha, there are Bauddhaha. There is definitely a Jaina because his name is Jinasena. So all across the board, there are selections. Yeah, correct. So there are many of these. Now coming to the Vishaya itself. Where do these kavis express their thoughts on the Kavyam? Obviously it can be part of the Kavyam itself, somewhere in between as a Padyam, but also prologues to different Natakani, Rupakani, and introductions to their plays. So they talk about what they are presenting, why, maybe there is a difficulty in doing something, so that is there. Or within the plot itself, it could be. So, and there are other rarer ways of presenting it, so that is what he has collected. To give some examples, first few are Valmiki, Vyasa, Ashwaghosha, etc. Those are the first few kavis here. Valmiki, I think here we should say something like, I found this personally, there are many kavis where the kavis are very explicit about what they want to say. But in cases like Valmiki, Vyasa, that is there, but there is also a good amount of scholarship of Dr. Shatabdani Ganesh in terms of understanding the situation there and presenting that has to be their view. I mean, I'm not saying it's an interpretation, it is very clear though, but no one has talked about it like that. That is what I'm pointing it out. So it's a combination of this. So for example, Valmiki, he is very sensitive to values, human values. And once he has a flash, he himself is amazed, what have I told? What is this that has come out of my mouth? So this wonder at his own creation is something we can learn from what it is. And he is very humble in the way he presents. And there is a small note from Shatabdani about the shloka or the vrittam, choice vrittam, which people don't really talk about that much. So that is there. And there are many more, but another important point there is appreciating of Kavyam. How do we appreciate Kavyam? So how do we deliver it? And then how do people appreciate? Because Lavakusha, they are well known about singing it. It is their own Manodharma as much as how much Valmiki has written. So those aspects are also covered. And how first readers of a Kavyam should be respected. So I think they are called as beta readers nowadays. So then on to Vyasa. Vyasa, you can't stop talking about Mahabharatam. It's an endless endeavor. But one point is, we have this Duryodhano, Manyumayo, Mahadrumaha, Yudhishthiro, Dharmamayo, Mahadrumaha, etc. in the beginning itself. So Prabandhadhvanihi is something that Dr. Ganesh highlights here. What is it that I am talking about? What is the undercurrent that might be there for my entire Prabandha? So these things are indicated in the beginning of the Mahabharatam itself. Then he also, Urdhva Bahur Viramyaisha na Kaschit Shrinoti Me. So this is part of the Bharata Savitri. I think it's called as Bharata Savitri if I am not wrong. So there he expresses helplessness. So there are these things where there is a vulnerability shown also. Very, very, I think only high Kavayaha can do that, because we'll try to hide our insecurities. That is what we are very good at. So these kinds of aspects, and the one line I don't want to expand, but extremely potent. Yena tyajasi tat tyaja. From Vyasa, he also hints at how powerful the line is, and then goes on to other kavis, Ashwaghosha, Jinasena. So there are three kavis, Ashwaghosha, Jinasena, Venkatanatha, one more, where one theme is there. First is they are influenced by their Siddhantas, and some of them, like Jinasena for example, argue that the entire Katha or Kavyam, whatever, Kavyam Katha, should be used for that purpose only. Like propagating Jaina Dharma or Buddha Dharma. That is fine. I mean, doing that is fine, but why should it be restricted to that? That is, I mean, it is not obvious. It is not even logically fitting also. So, in fact, as a person who is studying Jaina Katha Sahityam, I find these things interesting, but I agree completely with the view expressed here that, yeah, it is a wide medium, can be used. In fact, it is as much said, anything in the Bhuvana Trayam is a Vishaya for both Natyam, Chitram, Kavyam, etc. Then there are too many of this, so couple of them I will finish within 5 minutes. Pardon if I am exceeding my time. Kalidasa Shudraka. Shudraka, a little small snippet is there. He describes his nature of work up front. And Kalidasa is a huge Kavi, so there is no point in me explaining what all he says. You should please read the book. I recommend everyone should read the book. In fact, 10 minutes was given. I said 10 minutes is, I don't know what it is. We need 10 days. Each day 8-hour session. For 75 to 80 hours to finish that book to some decent level. So I request Shatabdhani to please conduct reading sessions like our Arthashastram and explain this in more detail, because there are things where there is a translation, there is a Moola Padyam, he has understood it, but I mean, we need more depth, right? Of course, if he writes, it will become 3-4 times more thick. So if he expounds on it, maybe include more original Kavyam in it, then it will be very nice. So that is there. And Traigunyotbhavam atra, this is from Kalidasa. Traigunyotbhavam atra loka rachitam nana rasam drishyate natyam bhinna rucher janasya bahudha pyekam samaradhanam, etc. Loka, oh sorry, what did I say? Oh, rachitam, oh sorry. Loka charitam. So in this case, there is an explanation, but also an important point is mentioned in the book, which is, anyone writing on it, it won't become nice, because the Karya Karana Sambandha seen in the Loka has to be translated into Vibhava Anubhava Sambandha. So there it needs a Kavi to make it put Ranjakatvam into it. Then one more Kavi is Shyamilaka. His Padapaka. How Padapaka affects various appreciation of Kavyam. He talks about that. Then Bharavi on clarity of words, or muddiness of words but clarity of words. So both, how we contrast. And then Harshavardhana. Harshavardhana was a Raja, so he had other aspects, he brings other aspects into it. Like for example, essential elements to produce, propagate art, savor art. And in that chapter, there is a big discussion on the technique of Garbhanka also. Play within play. So there is a Natakam going on. Within that, there is another Natakam going on. It creates very interesting scenarios, how they react, what you can convey. It's another level inside. So that is there. Then Bana Bhatta's Kriti Swamyam, that is the word I am using, copyright issues. So this copyright thing is a big deal, but Arthopaharana Prakaraha, etc., Rajashekhara talks, many other people also talk about it. So a little bit of that. What is adaptation? What is straightaway plagiarism? There is a thin line, so those things come up. it's very interesting that instead of just sticking to guna, dosha, only those small set of things, it's a wide range of things the Kavis talk about, but all of them intertwined into what we could actually call as Kavya Shastram itself. Then Magha, about coherence. You can just blabber 5-6 Padyani, but there could be no coherence, internal cohesion between them. That is the most difficult part, which is Maghas. So these are some of the things. There is so much that is being written in this book. So we have to sit down and explore very, very slowly what each aspect is. And the interesting part is Kavya Shastram itself, as I said, will indicate certain things. But we do find there are very fresh perspectives on some of various issues. Because the Kavis themselves are coming out with what they think about them. And then there are others like Yashovarma, Murari, Bhallata, Trivikrama Bhatta. I'm just listing down some names who are all being quoted, or not quoted, dealt with in detail. Kshemendra, Bilhana, Jayanaka, Mankha, Venkatanatha is Vedanta Deshika, Ganga Devi, Neelakantha Dikshita, Parimala Padmagupta, so many of them. In fact, Vedanta Deshika's chapter, in that chapter there is a discussion on whether Shantarasa can be portrayed on stage. This is a perennial question for like several centuries, same thing. Whether that rasa exists is a big question. Number of rasas Dr. Raghavan has written. It is never ending. But then he argues that, yeah, it could be through some contrasting ways we can present Shantarasa. Last but not the least, but the last but not the least takes a different meaning in this book, because the last Kavi, major Kavi is Neelakantha Dikshita, goes on for 30 pages. So it is the, not least means the huge one. So many aspects of it he has dealt with. So, but one sloka I found very interesting. I'll just quote that and end my presentation. Stutam stuvanti kavayo na swato gunadarshinaha कीटः कश्चिद् अलिर्नाम कियति तत्र वर्णना. Stutam stuvanti kavayo. Whatever has been stutam, already been praised, and praised, they again and again praise the same kind of things, people. Na swato gunadarshinaha. Okay, now I am seeing a guna in this object, let me do this, stotram of this or description of this. They don't do that. Keep on going the treaded path. That is the first half. The second is interesting. Kitah kaschid alirnama. Alihi is the Brahmara. Bee. Kitaha kaschid, it is some insect, that bee. Kiyati tatra varnana. How many people are doing pages and pages of varnana of this kita only? So that is what, this is a padyam by Neelakantha Dikshita. He does such things, I really like it. So that is why I say I am very proud to be his Vamshaja. He matches my temperament for whatever reason. So and there are Subhashitani also, from which he has collected several like nuggets of wisdom on how Kavis present it. And there is, apart from bibliography, there is also an index of the shlokas that have been collected. In fact, the Sangraha itself is a wealth. Even if we don't understand it completely, the Sangraha of the shlokas itself is very nice to just go back and refer to it. And as far as the translation, Shashi Kiran has really done a good job of it, because I am not able to read the original very fast, even though I have read portions of it. But it flows very, very smoothly, seamlessly, the translation. And he has given translation of the Padyams also, and what was the exact essence of presentation by Dr. Shatavadani, he manages to convey it quite well. So with that, I am ending my presentation. Atra viramami. Dhanyavada.
Thank you, Anand, for that most comprehensive presentation introduction to the books. I request our chief guest, Dr. H.V. Nagaraj Rao, to please present Anand with a small token of our gratitude. The next presentation is by Jaisimha KR. He'll be introducing the 2 volumes of Jnapaka Chitrashale, some high-minded exemplars and a miscellany of memories. Jaisimha works at the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister of India. His areas of research include digital public infrastructure, administrative reforms, judicial reforms, and the protection of national monuments. His studies have often led to government interventions. I must mention his co-written article with Sanjeev Sanyal, which led to one such intervention by the government. Previously, he worked as a journalist with The Hindu and as a legislative assistant to the Members of Parliament Fellow, Lamb Fellow at New Delhi. Jaisimha has an abiding interest in literature, philosophy, history, polity, and governance, and subjects like that. He describes himself, in the words of DVG, as an Utsaha Pracharaka of good literature, and has himself translated a few episodes of Art Gallery of Memories. If you look at him, Jaisimha does not look it, but he is actually a foodie, a gastronomic connoisseur. And I believe this quality, along with all other of his scholarly attainments, makes him eminently suited to introduce DVG's works.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I thank Preksha Pratisthana for inviting me to talk about the 2 volumes of DVG's work in DVG's Karma Bhumi, in front of leading scholars of DVG and in front of Ramaswamy sir, who was the scribe to all the 8 volumes of Jnapaka Chitrashale. And my difficulty is multifold now after Anand Vishwanathan's talk. To say the least, it would be insipid, because I am definitely not as articulate and as fluent. In his preface to the modern English usage, his classic, Fowler says that I think of this book as it should have been, with its prolixities docked, its dullness enlivened, its fats eliminated, and its truths multiplied. So as I stand here today, even I think of my speech as it should have been. And after Anand Vishwanathan's talk, I am pretty sure that I cannot say everything I want to say, and everything I say is not going to be said in the way I wanted it said. So with this caveat, I would begin. And this is the problem with plenty now. So because Jnapaka Chitrashale, the 7th and 8th volume, the 7th volume is titled Hridaya Sampannaru in Kannada, and in English it is titled Some High-Minded Exemplars, and the 8th volume is titled Sankirana Smriti Samputa, and in English it is titled A Miscellany of Memories. The 7th volume was published exactly 50 years ago in 1974, just before a year before DVG died, and the 8th volume was published after DVG's death. So it is only fitting that the 7th volume is, the English translation of the 7th volume is being released after 50 years of writing the work. And incidentally, the first volume, the first 3 volumes, the first volume, Sahitya Sajjana Sarvajanikaru, was released in 2019, in the month of December. That was the 50th year of the publication of the first volume. So I do not know why it took 50 years to translate these 8 volumes. It should have been translated much earlier. Ramaswamy sir quotes Vayanke, who actually said that Jagatni yaru nodle ilva ee tara bardidarala anta. So I also wonder why people did not translate it for 50 years. Maybe the sheer volume of it, 2,500 pages, might have intimidated people who actually thought of translating it. So in these volumes, there are like more than 55 pen portraits DVG has written about, and if I may say so, the first 6 volumes largely DVG's mind works there. In these 2 volumes, the heart of DVG works. So this is one big thing, and that is why he has titled it as Hridaya Sampannaru. And then he explains what Hridaya Sampannaru means, and then he explains what Sahridaya means. And then in the 8th volume, it is semi-autobiographical. DVG did not write for years together saying that it would involve much about himself if he writes his memories. Masti Venkatesh Iyengar, V. Sitaramaya, his contemporaries and his associates like SRR used to always urge him to write it, but he never wrote it saying that his would be written a lot. I mean, he did not want that to be done because he was a Vanasuma kind of a, I mean, he followed the philosophy of Vanasuma. But fortunately, he started writing it, and we are fortunate that he wrote the 8th volume. And according to BGL Swami, the first 6 chapters of the 8th volume are autobiographical because he writes about his childhood in Mulabagal and the atmosphere, the environment, the teachers and family that shaped him. And the later chapters are about, I mean, we may say that DVG, the way he looked his life as an adult in Mulabagal. So Mulabagal had a great influence of his on his life. He was born there. And so in these volumes, as I said, even DVG says this, that he has attempted to show how individuals of an era led their lives and what ideas and purposes they set their hearts on. We learned that the common man, at least to some extent, the lives of noble patronage in societies and tries to model his life on them. Thus, we may summarize the condition of a society by observing such lofty exemplars. So, SRR in his introduction has comprehensively described the uniqueness of this series. I can do no better than quote his exact words. What distinguished these writings is its special alchemy comprising not merely vibrant personality portraits, but also vignettes of family life of bygone days, the social scenario of the period, and in some parts, the political and administrative configuration in the pre-independence era. Such is the keenness of observation with which DVG was endowed was that much of the documentation in these writings is to be found nowhere else. To give 2 examples, not related to these 2 volumes, but other volumes, the 2 brilliant examples that came to my mind. In 2021, there was a brilliant biography of now largely forgotten V.S. Srinivas Shastri. People who have read DVG, people who have read Gnapachitra V.S. Srinivas Shastri is a very familiar name. But people outside the world have largely forgotten him. So in 2021, there was a brilliant biography that came out titled V.S. Srinivasa Shastri, India's First Diplomat. So the writer of this biography is an Indian who teaches at the University of Leiden in Netherlands, and it was published by some university in the UK. So I came across the book and I wanted to buy the book, but it was not available in India. I wrote to the author saying I wanted to buy the book, and he said that publishers did not find it interesting to be published in India, so I did not find any publishers. This is unfortunate. And then I wrote to him, drawing his attention to DVG's works, because in 2021, the 6th volume of Halavaru Sarvajanikaru was not released. And Arjun had translated it on Preksha, and I just compiled the links. There were like 26 or 27 parts. I just compiled the links and sent it to him. He was so amazed, and he said that if he had gotten it before, if he had read it before, it would have enriched his volumes. And he also mentioned in the email that he had come across DVG's name. He did not know who DVG was, because the author, by the name, the author's name is Vineet Thakur. He must be somewhere from the north. So he said that he had come across DVG's names because a few of DVG's letters has been published in the letters of V.S. Srinivasa Shastri, and he had said that he had read the correspondence in the Nehru Memorial Museum Library's archives. So had he gotten this book, and had he known about the English writings of DVG, which have been, 10 volumes have been published, a lot of material on V.S. Srinivasa Shastri again. So, this is actually a loss. The second example is quite fascinating. Again, 3 years ago, there was this book by an Indian again who teaches at the University of New York. He teaches political science by name Rahul Sagar. He has edited Diwan Madhavarav's book titled Hints on the Art and Science of Government. It was Diwan Madhavarav's, the famed Diwan of Baroda, who gave lectures to the Gayakwad there. So it was never published. And I think this must have been in 1890s or early 1900s. And for some reason, the book was lost and the copyright was with the then Gayakwad. They did not publish it, and some pirated versions were available here and there. And some Hindi version of it was published in 1913 or 14, or a pirated condensed edition. And in 2022, Rahul Sagar, while compiling works on native Indian states, came across this manuscript of hints and on the art and science of government, which he calls modern India's first treatise on government. So we have Chanakya, but in the modern India, what was our thinking on government? And then after researching on the topic, he finally found the manuscript in Mythic Society Library. He found it, he flew to India, took that book with an introduction, he has published it. So how is it related to Gnapakshitra Shale? So if you have read Maisurina Divanurugalu, the fourth volume of Gnapakshitra Shale, the fifth volume is Vaidika Dharma Sampradayastharu. The fourth volume, in the fourth volume, while writing about Diwan Ananda Rao, who was Madhava Rao's son, DVG mentions that he had written an article on the problems of native Indian states and had quoted from Diwan Madhava Rao's then unpublished works in the article. And then after reading the article, one of the Maharajas of one of the provinces wrote a very nice review of the article in Times of India. This was in early 1910s. DVG must have been barely like 26, 27 years old. So he wrote a review of it in Times of India and wrote to DVG saying, you have quoted some Madhava Rao, can you please send me the original volume of the book? DVG had not read the original full compilation because it was not published then. He had read excerpts from it which was given to him by one of his friends, and DVG, being a typical journalist, does not say who that friend was. It was so he said it was one of his friends. And then he thought I should ask Diwan Ananda Rao, because by then he knew Diwan Ananda Rao really well. He got to know Diwan Ananda Rao by 1910s. So he goes to Diwan Ananda Rao, and Diwan Ananda Rao by then had read DVG's book article and the review also. And he welcomed him saying that I wanted to meet you anyways, but you have come, nice. So where did you read this? So DVG tells him that I got it from a friend who I trust a lot, so I just quoted it. So Diwan Ananda Rao says, do you want to see this now? He's like, definitely. And then he says he gave 2 copies of there were 2, he had gotten it scribed. He had gotten it written down. He gave 1 set of copies with 12 lectures. He gave it to DVG. DVG read it, gave it back, and took the second lecture, gave it back. And Diwan Ananda Rao asks for DVG's review of these books. How was it? So DVG says, they are immensely informative. The most essential tenets and opinions have been covered with great clarity in heart-touching manner. This is an important treatise to be pursued by politicians and students of political science, especially if the kings of our native states read such treatise intently. It will be exemplary not just for their future, but also for the future of their subject. And he indirectly hinted that this has to be published. And then Madhava Rao asks, how much does it get to, how much does it take to... Ananda Rao asks DVG, how much would it cost to print and publish this book? DVG says the first volume may cost 1,000 rupees and the second volume could cost another 1,000. If you permit me, I will take care of all such work, from proofreading to draft and so forth. I will not take any remuneration. I shall undertake this work for my own happiness. After thinking for about 2 minutes, will it cost 2,000 rupees? I don't have so much money. I am a poor man, says Ananda Rao. And DVG says the moment I got that response, I had no patience to stay there for a second more. You may deliberate upon it. I shall, and then DVG leaves with a folded hand. And why is this important and relevant now? It is important and relevant now because in early 2010s, Rama Joyce, who was the governor and Chief Justice of Punjab and Haryana High Court, wrote a book titled Rajaniti. And the foreword to that book is written by the then Chief Minister of Gujarat, Narendra Modi. So in the foreword to the book, Narendra Modi mentions Diwan Madhava Rao's hints on the arts and science of government. And Rama Joyce says that it was the then Chief Minister of Gujarat who asked him to read that book. So somehow he got some excerpts of the book and he has published quotations from that book. So and then finally the book was published 3 years ago and it was in Mythic Society's library. And Rahul Sagar found out that it was Diwan Ananda Rao's copy because there was a stamp on it. So circumstantial evidence says that this might have been the same copy DVG would have seen. So,
You are journalist.
So the point here is DVG wanted it to be published 110 years ago when he was in his mid-20s. And he mentions it in the passing in Gnapakchitrashale. And I do not know how and why this was not found. It was in Bangalore, it was in Mythic Society. None of us even knew about it. So this is the important. So when SRR says that the information cannot be found nowhere else, I mean, it is serious. I mean, it is not just because he was the close associate of DVG or because we are huge admirers of DVG, we are, I mean, saying these things. So, Gnapakchitrashale that way has, I mean, hundreds of such anecdotes which only DVG would know. And but for DVG's, what we may call the Sasve Dabba, we would not got to know anything else. I mean, we would not know all these things. And these are the two examples I can, that came to my mind recently. And then the other, I mean, I will not get into all the 8 volumes of Gnapakchitrashale, its literary beauty, its narration, the social history, and other things. I will just sum up the 8 volumes in Ganesh sir's words, where he says that, sorry. So DVG's profound understanding, this is Ganesh sir's verse, he writes it in his preface to Hari's and the English translation of Mankuti Manakagga titled Foggy Fool's Farrago by Hari and his grandmother Malathi Rangaswamy. So Ganesh sir writes, DVG's profound understanding of the human psyche enabled him to narrate the stories of people's life with great empathy, insight and warmth. He tells us the stories of politicians and rulers, ministers and bureaucrats, poets and musicians, cart pullers and masons, scholars and saints, from the rich and powerful to the wise and simple to the poor and humble. He regales us with tale after tale. The reader feels that they are in the company of a wise sage who is narrating poignant stories with wit, wisdom and serenity. It transcends being merely a collection of memories, for it affords us an intimate view into the society of those times. It is an autobiography as much as it is a cultural history. It is a geographical journey as much as it is a social commentary. I mean, just today while coming to Gokhale Institute, Hari and I were talking about these things, and we just passed Abalashrama there, and then he showed me the bust of Venkatavarada Iyengar. And Venkatavarada Iyengar has been profiled in the 8th volume of Gnapakchitrashale. And then we came via Sajjan Rao Circle, and Sajjan Rao has been profiled in the 7th volume of Gnapakchitrashale. So it is a geographical journey. So what we have to do now is to maybe have a heritage walk of what DVG has described. Be it Mulbagal, maybe go to Mulbagal on a Tuesday to see the offering of Kedage flowers to Anjanaya. That's why he wrote Ketakivana. Or go around Baswangudi, Jainagara, Chikkpete, Doddipete, though they have been completely changed now. I mean, DVG's memory was impeccable. I mean, it amazes. Like, ಗುಂಡೋಪಂತ ರಸ್ತೆಯ 4ನೆಯ ತಿರುವಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಈಶಾನ್ಯದ ಕಡೆಗೆ ಇವರ ಮನೆ ಇತ್ತು. I mean, these are like hundreds of things like this. And then he's writing it after like 60, 70, 80 years. From 1910s, and then he wrote the last volumes in 1970. So this is just mind-boggling. So when I started reading Gnapakchitrashale at the beginning, like 8-10 years ago, I thought, what big deal? Okay, he had great memory, so he wrote. But then once you start reading it, then you will know the importance, and then you will know how difficult it is to write it. I mean, it is a Rasakavya, and Ganesh sir calls it Mahakavya, I mean, Gadya Mahakavya. And the translation has come out really well with brilliant sketches also. So it can also be called, so to speak, a Chitrakavya also. A lot of really good chitras from his days. And one thing, I mean, it is, as I said, it is the problem of plenty. So I did not know which one to choose, because you have to read these volumes. So please buy these volumes, read the 7th and 8th volume in Kannada and then in English. The translation has been done with great enthusiasm, with great, I must say, it has been done very carefully, and we have to thank Hari for it, because it is, I mean, I have not come across a crowdsourced translation by enthusiasts like this. I mean, I do not know of any other example. I do not know of any other example. So, and the advantage is that you can get the 2,500 pages translated in, say, 1 year or 2 years. But with this comes a challenge, because to maintain the Ekasutrate, each translator has, I do not know how many people have translated, at least 60, 70 people must have translated it. So 70 people from different walks of life, different age groups, maybe from 25 to ever the Tirumalai Bhatt sir must be 80, 85 years old. So you have 60 years of these things. So to bring that Ekasutrate is a Herculean task. And Hari and the others in the volume, Arjun has been one of the co-editors, G.S. Raghavendra, and I'm sorry if I'm missing the names. They've done it really well. And they have given really good footnotes wherever it is necessary, and retained, as Anand said in the other translations. For example, DVG writes a lot about food in this volume. Rave Unde is written as Rave Unde. Tengolu or Kodubale is Kodubale, because you simply can't translate these things to English, and they have given wherever necessary and wherever possible they are in a footnote. And there is a really good glossary where you get all these things that cannot be translated. The 6th and 7th and 8th volume have to be read to experience it. So one thing DVG said, that literature is, the greatest use of literature is a certain grace and serenity. So the grace and serenity is found here. So for that grace and serenity, everyone should read these volumes. And as an example, I will just quote 1 or 2 instances here, and quote how DVG's commentary. And one thing I forgot to forget is, lot of verses of Mankutimana Kagga comes into mind while reading these things. So it is like a commentary, his own commentary to his Mankutimana Kagga maybe. And then it is his heart, as I mentioned before. So, and the translation is not at all easy. It's really, really difficult. I will just give one example from the 7th volume, where he has written about Namorina Grama Devategalu. Really good. I mean, he writes about the Grama Devatas in and around Mulubagal. I will just give you the, I'll just read it in Kannada, and then while reading it, I was thinking, how would I have translated this? And then I realized that I could have never translated it. You simply can't do it. So it's called Utlu. So it's about a sport. He says, Utlu endare hige, ಒಂದು ಎತ್ತರವಾದ ಕಲ್ಲುಕಂಬ, ಅದರ ಮೇಲುಗಡೆ ಒಂದು ಮರದ ಚೌಕಟ್ಟು, ಕಬ್ಬಿಣದ ಗೂಟ, ಆ ಗೂಟದ ಕೆಳಗೆ ಆ ಚೌಕಟ್ಟಿನ ಕೆಳೆತನದ ಮಧ್ಯೆ ಒಂದು ರಂಧ್ರವನ್ನು ಕೊರೆದಿರುತ್ತದೆ. ಕಲ್ಲು ಕಂಬದ ಮೇಲುಗಡೆ ಒಂದು ಕಬ್ಬಿಣದ ಗಡಾರಿಗೆ ಆ ರಂಧ್ರದ ಮೂಲಕ ಚೌಕಟ್ಟನ್ನು ಸಿಕ್ಕಿಸಿರುತ್ತದೆ. ಚೌಕಟ್ಟಿನಿಂದ 4 ಹಗ್ಗಗಳನ್ನು ಇಳಿದು ಬಿಟ್ಟಿರುತ್ತದೆ. ಚೌಕಟ್ಟಿನ ಒಂದು ಮೂಲೆಗೆ ಒಂದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಹಗ್ಗವನ್ನು ಕಟ್ಟಿ, ನೆಲದ ಮೇಲಿರುವ ಒಬ್ಬ ಮನುಷ್ಯ ಹಗ್ಗವನ್ನು ಹಿಡಿದು ಕಂಬದಿಂದ 15-20 ಅಡಿ ದೂರದಲ್ಲಿ ಸುತ್ತೂರು ಸುತ್ತುತ್ತಾನೆ. ಅವನು ಸುತ್ತಿದಂತೆ ಆ ಮೇಲನ ಚೌಕಟ್ಟು ಸುತ್ತುತ್ತದೆ. ಅವನು ಎಷ್ಟೆಷ್ಟು ಬೇಗ ಸುತ್ತಿದರೆ ಆ ಚೌಕಟ್ಟು ಅಷ್ಟಷ್ಟು ಬೇಗ ಸುತ್ತುತ್ತದೆ. And then it goes on. I mean, it is impossible to translate this. But they have done a really good job. This was, I think, translated by Shashi. So it's a brilliant job done here. I mean, I can give like tens of examples on this. Tens of examples. The first wall, the essay on Hiriyan has been translated by H.Y. Sharda Prasad. But he had left out a lot of things in between. Brilliant translation again. You have to read the original and the English translation. I mean, I can't do any, I mean, I simply can't say. I mean, I can just go and sit, and then people should continue reading it now. That is the only. So this is how it has been translated. Imagine a long stone pillar with a wooden frame and an iron wedge on top. A hole is carved beneath the wedge in the middle of the frame's lower surface. The wooden frame is hung to a metal bar through the hole. 4 ropes are suspended from the frame. A person standing about 15 feet away from the pillar on the grounds holds a rope tied around one corner of the frame and revolves. The frame revolves with him. The sooner he goes around a circle, the sooner the frame spins. As this happens, the rope suspends from the frame start to revolve, and it goes on. So the success of a translation is this. Though the original is quite complicated to read, if you read the original English translation without reading the Kannada original, you will easily understand it. If you would want to go back to the original translation, then there is some problem with the translation. But nowhere in all the 8 volumes, and especially these 2 volumes, I have felt that, okay, what does the original say? Let me go back and see there. Never. So all the 8 volumes, and this is one of the brilliant things. So this is a small gist of why people should read it. And I mean, Aprasiddha Kavitva, unsung poetry, people can just go on for hours. Hakkiya Payana, which is about DVG's darshana of life. The whole essay is DVG's darshana of life. People just should read it. Even the translations are really wonderful. I can cite one more example, very funny example, if I may say it here. Narasimharaja. So yeah, so this is the brilliant part, and this is DVG's power of writing, and DVG's brilliant power of writing. So there was this Narasimhachar, and he writes this, not Narasimhachar, this Narasimhachar. So he was a disciple of Gopinathacharya, and he had immense devotion towards his guru. So the teacher-student duo had been to a village for Nangali for lunch, and after having Ambode, Hayagriva, Hulitove and other things, they were coming back, and these have not been translated. So they started their return journey by around 3:30 in the afternoon, and the heavy meal in their stomach was dragging them down. The summer heat was beating down upon their heads. Some of the great effort with great effort they walked for a mile or two, and they wanted to ease themselves. So they wanted to find some place. They could not, but finally they noticed a rock which was wide and clean. Seeing it, the Acharya turned his back and said, "Wow, E bandi, nakandi, emakundi, shuddhi." So this rock which I saw is clean, and so my dash is also cleansed. So his student, since he was a student, he was a devout student. So he says, "Nimakundi, nakandi, emakundi, shuddhi." And this is, and then comes DVG's punch here. The DVG's commentary in one line. He says, "Something that is pure can also be a purifier," is the concept here. Isn't a lamp that is lit capable of lighting another lamp? So this is, and you have to read it in Kannada. Shuddhiyadaddu shuddhikari endu tattva. ಉರಿಯುವ ದೀಪ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ದೀಪವನ್ನು ಉರಿಸುತ್ತದಷ್ಟೇ. So for these things we have to read these volumes, and I think I am running out of time. The 8th volume is also great. One request is everyone should start reading the 8th volume from the last chapter of the 8th volume. Hridaya Saundarya Undu Madhura Smriti, because DVG ends it with the story of a Upanishad saying, "Anando Brahmeti Vejanat Ananda Dhyeva Kalvamani Bhutani Jayante." So it is for that Ananda, and it is for that serenity, and it is for that grace which DVG says we have to read all these volumes. And there was talk on Shanta Rasa here. So it is the Shanta Rasa that predominates at the end of reading all these volumes. And one more thing, he spoke about the 5 stages of Brihat Katha. So among these 2 volumes and people here, there are at least 7 generations. So DVG in his 8th volume talks about his great-grandfather, and our generation, it is the span of like 160 years. And the relevance of DVG's work, the brilliance of his work is seen here, because it is like 160, 180 years of Rasagatti. So thanks again for inviting me here. Thanks to everyone here, and thanks for the patient listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jai Simha. Between the initial 2 impressions of world authors finding their material in DVGs And to the last episode, Jai Simha really took us on a world tour in the guise of presenting these volumes. I would request Sri H.V. Nagaraja Rao to present Jai Simha with a small token of our appreciation, please. In the course of his talk, Jai Simha wondered why Jnapaka Chitrashale has not been translated all these years. To our mind, in Preksha Pratisthana, we think it was because a Hari Ravi Kumar was not available all these years. Hari Ravi Kumar will now speak in his capacity as the series editor of the Art Gallery of Memories. Hari is a man of many talents. He is an author, translator, designer, and violinist with a deep interest in philosophy, music, literature, films, and education pedagogy. He has written and edited close to 40 books, primarily related to Indian culture. He is the founder of Praharsha Prakashana and serves on the advisory board of a few educational institutions. To us at Preksha, he is our grand old man. And to reiterate, the English translation would never have been possible if he were not the chief editor. I request Hari to please speak.
Om Tat Sat. Ellarigu Namaskara. Good evening, friends. Thanks to the Preksha team for generously considering my request to say a few words on this august occasion. I deem it a singular fortune for having received the opportunity to be associated with so many English translations of D.V. Gundappa's Kannada writings, which have been offered on this hallowed stage to the world of the Gokhale Institute, which was founded and nurtured by DVG. The 8-volume Jnapaka Chitrashale anthology of DVG may be dubbed as the dark horse in his corpus of writings in Kannada, and today the final 2 volumes have come out in English translation, and I have basically the pleasant duty of thanking all the contributors who made this possible. When I think of this massive translation project of 8 volumes spanning more than 6 years, starting from 2018 until now, and you might think I'm being a little audacious here, but I think of it as a yajna, because yajna involves a lot of people. When you say a word like japa or dhyana, what comes to our mind is a solitary person sitting in a corner and engaging in this. But yajna is a group activity. Even for that matter, the Pancha Maha Yajna, which is prescribed for every householder, involves other people, gods and seers and ancestors and other people, other beings. So yajna is never done alone. It has to be done together. And the Sanskrit word yajna comes from the word root yaj, which is explained as Deva Puja Sangati Karana Daneshu, which basically includes the element of reverence to an object of worship, a deva, and Sangati Karana, which is coming together, and Dana, which is charity, offering charity. And in this context, DVG is the object of reverence. And all these translators, illustrators, publishers, everybody have come together, and they have given a dana of their time, energy, efforts. So it is a yajna. Apart from me, there are 50 other translators. 50 people have come together, 13 volume editors, 2 illustrators, and everything was published in one printing press. So many people have come together. Now, when I met Dr. Ganesh in 2011, one of the first questions he asked me when I went to his house in Rajajanagar was, do you speak Kannada? I said, yes, of course I speak Kannada, because all the time I had called him, everything was in English. Mat yakappa English nal matartira nevo. So then immediately next question came, what ಏನು ಓದ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀರಾ? So then I told him a couple of books what I have read, and everything was in English. I was only reading English books. So he said, don't you know any languages? So when you are cornered, naturally you want to boast. It's a human tendency. I said, not only Kannada, sir, I know Tamil, which is my mother tongue. I know smattering of Hindi and Bengali and Spanish and that and this. Okay, all that is fine. Do you know how to read and write? Yes, I know how to read and write in all these languages. Then why don't you read in these languages? But whatever, because of circumstances, I never read anything. Until my 30th year, I had never read anything other than English. So there is some hope for older people. The very first book I read in Kannada when I started reading was D.V. Gundappa's Nyapaka Chitrashale. My grandmother had told me so much about it. I had never got a chance to read. I started reading it. And I was amazed. It is a whole world. And me being a primarily English reader, I said, this should come out in English. Why so many English readers are there? Why don't we bring it out in English? And a couple of first few episodes I translated. I showed it to Ganesh sir. I showed it to some friends. And the feedback was very good. And meanwhile, Preksha was lucky to get a carte blanche from Gokhale Institute. You can translate any work of D.V. Gundappa into English. So we had the permission and we started working on this. Now, like Jaisima mentioned, I think, or it was Anand, this could have been accomplished by an individual. If one person sat for a year or two and did nothing but translate this, I'm sure we could have done it, whether it's Sandeep or Arjun or Shashi or Raghavendra or any of our other friends, Chandru or Pratap, anybody could have done this if they had 2 years of time. In fact, when I started doing the first 2 episodes, my idea was I should translate the whole thing myself. That was my idea. But by the time, from SRR sir and Ganesh sir, I learnt about DVG a little bit, and I felt multiple people to participate, because that was DVG's vision, for more people to participate and come together. So I believe that because so many people are part of the translation, that the social impact of the English translation was much wider than if it had been done by one individual. Plus, these writings are written from the heart. They are not a technical writing. So anybody who has got a good knowledge of Kannada and English with a certain amount of exposure to the old Mysore kingdom will be easily able to translate these episodes, with some exceptions. Of course, the difficult ones were told by Jaisima, but it's not all the parts are so difficult. So then I started finding some people to give it out to translate. In fact, they said, because not because of me, and I was not made the chief editor. I just became the chief editor by chance. And when these translations started appearing, some people said, why should we translate? People who are interested will go and read original. Then there was a lot of opposition from some people saying, why are you giving it out to all these people? And once slowly the translation started appearing, then people started making fun of me. Oh, he gives translations to anybody and everybody on the street. But thankfully, I am a thick-skinned fellow, and all this never bothered me. So sidestepping all this, I went on, and I must say, for the record, 80% of the translations were very good. There were only 20% of translations where I had to work a little bit to ensure that there was a little more structure and fidelity to the original and so on. And it is true that if I had known the difficulties of this assignment in the beginning, I would definitely not have started doing this. It is because I was so blissfully unaware of what it takes that I started working on it with so much of enthusiasm. But I must say, I am very delighted that it has seen the light of day and all these volumes are come out. And perhaps if we were in better circumstances and if we had better vision, if I had read the whole thing cover to cover and had a larger blueprint in place and more freedom to do things and more discipline, this work might have come out with a little more details. But I'm very happy the way it has come out, and I do hope maybe in a year or two, whenever I get the time, to do a companion volume to these 8 volumes, which have more information about the different people, the places, and especially, Dr. Ganesh's lecture series at this very stage are a treasure trove of information of all the allied information about Nyapaka Chitrashale. And then we also have some very good books on the old Mysore and old Bengaluru region, so I like to consult them. So with this, let me quickly read out a list of the contributors who have come together for this 8-volume tome. Without them, these books would not be what they are, and I request you to reserve your applause till the end. It's a long list. So, in alphabetical order: Arjun Bharadwaj, Arun Kumar Ramchandra, Chaitanya Alavandi, Chandrasekhar, KS, Dhruva Somayaji, Gayatri Indavara, Gurudat Kudli, HY Sharda Prasad, Haricharan SM, IS Venkatesh, Indu Shekhar, Jayasimha KR, KK Subramaniam, Karthik Muralidharan, Kashyap Nayak, Kiran Kannappan, Kiran Prasad, Koti Sri Krishna, Professor LV Shantakumari, Madhulika Srivatsa, Manjunath Hegde, N. Tirumaleshwara Bhatt, Paresh Nadig, Pradyot Hegde, Dr. Prasad Bapat, Dr. Pratap Simha, Pratik Upadhyaya, Dr. Raghavendra GS, Raghavendra Nagaraja, Ramchandra KBS, Rashmi Kanchi, Ravindra Holla, Sandeep Balakrishna, Shashi Kiran BN, Shauri HR, Sri Hari Kaundinya, Srisha HR, Shreyas Acharya, Somashekar Sharma, Sridhar Saligram, Srinidhi Ramchandra, Srishan Tirumalai, Sudarshan Murlidhara, Sudhir Krishna Swami Kesari, Ullas Haritasa, Vaishnavi Nayak, Varuni, Professor Vedavyas MG, Vikram Padke, and Vishwas Rao. And the volume editors, Arjun Bharadwaj, Shatavadhani Dr. R. Ganesh, Karthik Muralidharan, Kashyap Nayak, Kiran Prasad, Paresh Nadik, Dr. Pratap Simha, Dr. Raghavendra GS, Sandeep Balakrishna, Shashi Kiran BN, Srisha HR, Somashekar Sharma, and Vaishnavi Nayak. And most of the illustrations were done by my good friend Ashok and Sudarshan. And Sudarshan did a few translations for volume 5. I'm very grateful to them because the sketches and the book add a lot of value because so many of these people are forgotten by this generation. So when we see an image, it has a lot of impact. And I'm very thankful to Nadoja Dr. S.R. Ramaswamy for writing a foreword to all these volumes. And to Nagendra BV of Rashtrotana Mudranalaya, where all these books were published. And without the support of all these people, definitely we would not see these volumes. I'm very, very grateful. It's a personal thank you to each and every one of you. I will beg your indulgence for a couple of minutes. Though I came out of Preksha in 2022 because of a medical emergency at home, my mother had to undergo a major surgery. I never got a chance to formally express my gratitude to the members of the organization, and I would like to take this opportunity. My association with Preksha was entirely by chance. In 2012, I had written a long-form essay criticizing the writings of D.D. Kosambi on Bhagavad Gita, and I showed it to Dr. Ganesh, and he immediately said, why don't we publish it on Preksha, which was at that time a blog site. And in 2016, when Sandeep Balakrishna and I were toying with the idea of starting an online journal of with me, usually at the end of a term or at the end of a seminar, there's a group photograph. So here's a group photograph, and the photographer is Fate, Venkannaya, B.M. Srikantaya, all these people. And in the last row in the back, you have S.R. Ramaswamy and Shatavadhani Ganesh and Sandeep Balakrishna and all these people. And I'm standing in the side looking at this, like we say in Tamil, Vedika Pakardu. So just looking and having a fun, looking at this thing. And then Fate says, why are you standing there? Come and join the picture. I said, no, how can I stand with all these people? No, there's space. It doesn't matter. You can join. So this photograph is taken and it's published in some journal. And after 300 years, people are seeing, you know who this is, this so-and-so. This is Raghavan. This is Kani. This is DVG. Who is this guy standing in the top left corner? I don't know, but he's standing with all these great people. He must also be somebody of value. So that is the gift I have got for being in Preksha, being associated with the brightest and the best. And I'm reminded of a line that the character of Saul says in Ocean's 12, "You're all aces in my book." Thank you.
Thank you, Hari, for those wonderful words. A doubt might be assailing Hari's mind as to how he got himself involved or embroiled in with Preksha, but we do not harbor any such doubts. We have not left him, as Dr. Ganesh says. And perhaps as an answer, we might say, in the words of an ancient Subhashita, Vikramarjita Sattvasya Swayameva Mrigendrata. Thank you, Hari. I would request Dr. H.V. Nagaraja Rao to please honor him. Now for the moment we were all waiting for with bated breath, the chief guest's address by Dr. H.V. Nagaraj Rao. Dr. Nagaraj Rao is a world authority on Sanskrit grammar and poetics, as was observed at the beginning. He worked at the Oriental Research Institute in Mysuru for several decades and has edited numerous Sanskrit texts. He has also translated many Sanskrit works into Kannada and English, some of which are Kshemendra's Darpadalana, Sundara Pandya's Niti Dvishashtika, Alankara Sarvasva, Vyakti Viveka, and so on. He has several original Sanskrit works to his credit, and some of the most recent publications include Shata Alankara Krishna Shataka, Shatavritta Shataka, Malini Shataka. He has taught at many universities abroad, primarily in the United States of America, as visiting professor. He is the recipient of the Sahitya Academy Award for his Sanskrit translation of S.L. Bhairappa's historical novel Sartha. He is also decorated with the President's Certificate of Honor for his contribution to the Sanskrit language, and he is the living embodiment of the ancient saying Vidya Vinayena Shobhate. I would request Dr. H.V. Nagaraj Rao to please deliver the chief guest address.
कस्तूरी तिलकन्ति भालफलके देव्यामुखाम्भोरुके रोलम्बन्ति तमालनीलमुकुलोत्तंसन्ति मौलावपि याः कर्णे विकचोत्पलन्ति कुचयोः कालागुरुस्थासन्ति प्रथयन्तु तास्तव शिवं श्रीकण्ठकण्ठत्विषः. First of all, when I received the letter from Shashi Kiran, they had said you only have to release the books. You don't have to say anything about the books. And I am here sitting with these youngsters, and many of you might have already remembered the Sanskrit saying, Hamsa madhye bhako yatha. However, friends, if I try to say anything about these books, then probably it would be Punarukti. When I was in Israel in 2003-2004, there was a long seminar which extended up to 6 months on Dandi. At that time, one of the scholars from China had come, and I did not know that there was so much of poetics in China, And he told, in one of his talks, he said that the punishment for Punarukti is Marana Dandana. And therefore, if I try to say these things about these books, I will be hanged according to the Chinese dictations. And so I am afraid about that. However, first of all, I am extremely happy to sit with Anand Vishwanathan beside me, because I am one of the greatest admirers of Nilakantha Dikshita, and he belongs to that great dynasty. He has that Nilakantha Dikshita has such a wonderful sense of humor. While we are reading it, we totally forget about the main subject, that humor itself attracts us. There are poetasters or kukavis as we say, and Nilakanta Dikshita prays to Lord Brahma, Kukavayaha Mukaha Santu, Athava Sarvan Janan Badhiran Kurushva. Such a wonderful person, this Nilakanta Dikshita, and I could see some flashes of Nilakanta Dikshita's genius in Ananda. He was talking about this Kathamrita of A.R. Krishna Shastri. Once, professor in Mysore, he was talking about, he was a student of A.R. Krishna Shastri, and A.R. Krishna Shastri had taken many of his students to Madikeri once. And there, in Madikeri, they first visited a coffee planter's house for stay and to have a bath, etc. And that host asked them, "Sir, will you have coffee before bath or after bath?" And here Krishna Shastri answered, "I will have coffee both before and after bath." So, when I saw the persons from A.R. Krishna Shastri's family here, maybe second generation, third generation, etc., I was extremely happy because such great people, they were in our Karnataka. They were not only great in Kannada, but in Sanskrit, his mastery should have been great. Otherwise, Kathamrita would not be possible at all. And next we had this Jai Simha K.R. What a great person he is. How much he has studied. In spite of the fact maybe I am 3 times older than him, I have not read so much as he has done. Such you see, young persons of our Karnataka who have been excelling in various fields. I am speaking the depth of my heart. This Shashi Kiran, who is so young, in spite of the fact that I have been working in the field of Sanskrit for the last 65 years, he writes better Sanskrit than I do. And you know, when we read these books, when his translations and also his introductions to the DVG's English works, you know, all those volumes, his English is so superb that, you know, of course I did not study any English, that is another thing, but a little spatter of English that I had helped me in going to the United States and also to Israel, etc. Otherwise, if only Sanskrit were taken into account, then there are thousands of people who are better than I am. And they invited me because I could say something. I could interpret these things in English, and therefore I was able to go there. However, when we see the English of DVG himself, it is so nice, so wonderful. And people are saying that English have left, but English has remained with us. But that is not a curse. It is actually a vara for us. It is a boon that has been given to us. We must remember that. And therefore, many people might ask, what is the need of translating these books into English? But Jnapaka Chitrashale or Munkutimana Kagga, these works are fit to be read by everyone in the world, not only in Kannada, not only in Karnataka. And therefore, if it has to reach the readers in various countries, this translation is a must. We must have it. And therefore, I congratulate all these translators who have worked so laboriously, so well that even the audience from the various other countries would be able to appreciate the gift of DVG to the world. And so, one by one, when we are seeing that Mr. Hari Ravi Kumar, how great he is. It is not an easy thing to edit all these translations, because even though he might have said here that 80% of the translations were good, actually translators are the traitors of writers. When such is the situation, a few days ago, I gave a piece of my writing to the artificial intelligence. Nowadays, natural intelligence, nobody values it. Only the artificial intelligence is valued. And I had given it for translation. Krishnana Upadesha. And do you know what translation it had given? Krishna's deputy country. Because Upamantri in Upamukhyamantri, in such places, Upa is translated as deputy, and Desha means country. So Upadesha means deputy country. That was the translation that was given to me. And so, even though he very humbly said that he did not have to work very much with 80% of the translations, personally I do not believe it. He should have done a lot of work, because translation is not an easy thing. Many things in one language cannot be translated into other languages. Kailasam in one place writes like this. It is a quarrel between a wife and a wife and the husband, and the husband asks the servant of the house, ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರು ಯಜಮಾನರು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು, ಅಮ್ಮ ಅವರು ಯಾರು ಯಜಮಾನರು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು, because he wants to know whether he is the ಯಜಮಾನ or, and the servant answers very intelligently, ತಾವೇ ಅಂದ್ರು ಸರ್. ತಾವೇ. Looking into him, it appears that the husband is ತಾವೇ ಅಂದ್ರು. Please translate this into English. And therefore, translation is a very tricky thing. I also know, you see, while I was translating some of the Mummadi Krishnaraja Vadiyar's Shri Tattva Nidhi into English, it was a very big problem, because those things, translating it into Kannada is easy. As already mentioned, these words are in vogue in our languages, and therefore it is quite possible to use the same word, Swarga, Dharma, etc. But how to translate these things into some other language, a language having a different cultural background, is a bigger problem. And I may boast that I had gone to Varanasi 2 years ago as a judge for the national Sanskrit competitions. At that time, some people from Assam, they said, Vayam sartham Samskrita bhashayam sartham pathitavantaha. Bhavata likhyate अन्येन कन्नडभाषायां रचितं त्वया संस्कृतभाषायाम् अनूदितम् इति वयं तु चिन्तयामः सार्थः संस्कृतभाषायामेव आदौ रचितः ततः कन्नडभाषायाम् अनुवादितः स्यात्. That is, maybe it was their generosity to have said it. However, that is what a translator expects. It should not, a translation should not read as a translation. It should read as the original. And the list of translators that was given by Hari, that was a long list of that. And therefore, we have such able translators here in our country. And I must say something about this Preksha. Last year's calendar, I have it. And whenever I see any page of that calendar, it gives an inspiration, because they have collected the sculptures from various parts of our country. That is not a great thing. You can collect them somehow. But the Sanskrit shlokas from Sanskrit, this vast Sanskrit literature, they have found the apt verse for that, and they have given also there. That is really something to be saluted. Aham tan shirasa namami. The Preksha has gained a wonderful place in the minds of all connoisseurs of literature. And now, if someone says that my work, whether it is big or small, has been published by Preksha, then I have arrived. That is what any author would like to say. And so, actually, according to the program that has been given, my lecture should have been over by 5:35. So I have exceeded my time. Thank you very much for listening to me, even though everything that I have said has already been said by these wonderful young scholars. And so, thank you. And I thank, especially I thank Shashi Kiran and Arjun, all these people. They are the gems, invaluable gems in our society. May God bless them. Bhagavan Vishnu, Bhagavan Shiva, Bhagavan Ganesha, Etan Sarvan Kripaya Vardhayatu, Shatam Sharadaha, Shatam Vasantan, Shatam Hemantan, Etan Arogya Sahitan Rakshatu. एतेषां कार्यं देशेन अपेक्षितं. तेभ्यः यः गणेशः मार्गं दर्शयति, यः गणेशः तादृशं नूतनं पन्थानं तेभ्यः दर्शयति, तं अहं वचसा शिरसा मनसा नमामि. So here I conclude my speech. Thank you again.
Thank you, Dr. Nagaraja Rao, for kindly blessing us It is not easy for him at this age to come all the way down from Mysore to participate in just one event and then go back again. But he has always been very generous, not just with his time but also with his knowledge. From on the behalf of the entire Preksha Pratisthana, we offer our humble prostrations to Dr. H.V. Nagaraj Rao. I request Shatabdhani Dr. R. Ganesh to present him a token of our respect. We are now reaching the last leg of today's evening. Sri Arjun Bharadwaj will present a brief introduction to the calendar. I request the dignitaries on stage to please take a seat down so that the stage may be set for the calendar presentation. It will take all of 2 minutes. A small announcement. Along with the volume 7 and 8 of Jnapaka Chitrashale, the entire series of Jnapaka Chitrashale from 1 to 8 is available as a set for people who are interested to procure the entire set. And of course, all the other Preksha publications are also available outside. Now, Arjun Bharadwaj will present a brief introduction to the calendar. Arjun is a versatile scholar, proficient in Kannada, Sanskrit, English, German, and Greek as well. He is the author and editor of several books and is widely sought after for his expertise in the Natya Shastra and the Indian temple tradition. Arjun is a contributing editor of Preksha. His co-translation of Professor A.R. Krishna Shastri's Vachana Bharata as the essential Mahabharata won the Kuvempu Bharati Bhasha Bharati Award from the Karnataka government. I request Arjun to please speak.
Namaste everyone, very good evening. Thanks a lot Shashi for the very kind introduction. We are towards the conclusion of today's event and we have already stretched beyond the assigned time. But although this is the conclusion of this event, I'm going to speak something which begins in the next year, the calendar. We are going to start with that. Before I briefly introduce the calendar, I would like to acknowledge and thank a few people who have contributed towards the essential Kathasarit Sagara translation. Before that, I would like to mention that the essential Kathasarit Sagara has been dedicated to Professor L.V. Shantakumari. The translation on behalf of Dr. G.S. Raghavendra, Srishan Tirumalai, and Hari Ravi Kumar, I would like to humbly announce that it has been dedicated to Professor L.V. Shantakumari. We are extremely beholden and grateful to the grandmotherly affection that she has poured upon us. She lives the life that she speaks about. There's a Mahavakya that she always says, no pain is unbearable. Whether it is mental or physical, no pain is unbearable because you are living with it, you are existing with it. If you say that it is unbearable, it's only an exaggeration. That is what she has been saying. Her Mahavakya, we have also added a Bhagavad Gita verse in connection with that in our dedication page. Dukkeshu anudvigna manaha, sukheshu vigatas pruhaha, vita raga bayakrodaha, stita dhir muni ruchyate. That is the embodiment of that principle we see in Professor L.V. Shantakumari. We have never seen her being scared of anything. Another Mahavakya that she says, which I think all of us will have to keep in our mind is, Savin badre bagge hedruke illa badkak bejar illa. So that's another Mahavakya. She has been telling us stories and tales, and she is a translator of tradition to the new generation. She is a very good translator in English, Kannada, Hindi, all the languages. So we thought that A.R. Krishna Shastri's Kathasarit Sagara would be best dedicated to our dear grandmother, Professor L.V. Shantakumari. Thanks a lot. ಬಹಳ ಸಂತೋಷ ನೀವು ಬಂದಿದ್ದು ನಮಗೆ ಆಶೀರ್ವಾದ. Thanks a lot. We would like to thank the representatives of the A.R. Krishna Shastri family. Late Sri C.R. Satya was very enthusiastic about the Kathamrita translation. He provided us with a lot of information and a lot of support. Our heartfelt gratitude to him and his wife Srimati Shamala Satya, and also to the copyright holders Sri Sripati and also Srimati Bharti. Their representatives are here as well. So they have been very supportive and encouraging. And see, for the first time, A.R. Krishna Shastri's work, among all the different scholars of Kannada, everything was made available online for free. The entire work of A.R. Krishna Shastri. So this is the kind of dedication, the kind of respect, the kind of love and regard the successors or the family members should have about an ancestral scholar. So they have made his works available for free to the world. And in the same vein, we had published the translation of the entire Vachana Bharata and of Kathamrita. It's been available for free on the Preksha website for everybody to read. They have now come out as books. So our heartfelt gratitude and pranams to all the family members. And also Sri Nagesh and Sri Somashekar are here, the representatives of the family. Our heartfelt gratitude to them. Many people have contributed to this translation in refining the translation, etc. Primary among them are Sri Ranganath Prasad and Sri Srinidhi. Both of them reviewed the translation, especially Sri Ranganath Prasad is very, very sharp in his edits, very, very nuanced. So our heartfelt gratitude to him. Shri Srinidhi Ramachandra and my cousin Chandan Yashwant, they contributed towards making of the indices. Our heartfelt gratitude to them. Most importantly, 6 children edited the work very thoroughly. They made the glossary, the list of words for the glossary. They made the indices. Even without me telling them, they very beautifully classified the names of human characters, the names of divine characters, the names of mythical places, the names of actual places, all these different kinds of things which come in the Kathasarit Sagara, the name of Puranic objects, the name of birds and animals, all these different indices of their own accord, self-inspired they were, and the book truly belongs to them. The children, we had called upon Kumari Aditi Bhatt as a representative on behalf of all the children. Aditi, Hamsa, Sri Gauri, Sudhamshu, Mayank and Rashmi, all of them contributed very well. Their understanding and appreciation of the story was so nuanced that, look at their observation, none of the 4 translators, we had realized this. See, for instance, a character by the name Samudra Datta, he comes in 5 different contexts, in 5 different relationships with different people. So they have made a detailed note of all that. Samudra Datta, the daughter of some other Chandra Datta. Samudra Datta, the husband of some other lady. Samudra Datta, the king of this particular country. In all the different contexts in which a character comes, all that they have noted. In the original dedication by Professor A.R. Krishna Shastri, he has mentioned that he is dedicating the work to his children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and all children. And these children are the true flag bearers of the Kathasarit Sagara Parampara and what A.R. Krishna Shastri had envisioned. And the 4 of us translators, we have just been a link in the tradition, I would humbly say. Just another thing, we would like to thank Sri Chandranath Acharya for the beautiful cover illustration. Even with his difficult health and his age, he has made the illustration only for this particular book. Okay, if there is a copy of the book, the illustration has Shiva telling the story to Parvati. It's okay, no problem. Yeah, Shiva telling the story to Parvati. So these stories have a divine origin. Parvati's request was that she wanted to hear stories which nobody else had heard. Exclusivity of stories. She has been bored. See, Jagatav Pitarao, they are the parents of the world. So they want to know stories which nobody else had heard, and that is when Shiva started narrating these stories. And one of the Shivaganas called Pushpadanta overheard it. Even that detail has been captured in the illustration which has been made by Chandranath Acharya. There's a character near Shiva's Ganga, the flowing of Ganga. So that is Pushpadanta, who has overheard the stories and come down to the earth and passed it on to us. So that divine origin, and thanks to this eavesdropper for bringing us these stories to us onto the earth. Yeah, and we have also included certain illustrations by, certain paintings, chromolithographs of Ravi Verma, and one of the favorite lithographs of Ravi Verma, Kedareshwara, Shankara and his family, which Krishna Shastri had included in his Kannada original. We have included that as well. And a few sculptures, the influence of the Brihat Katha tradition in Brihat Bharata in Greater India, all that we have included. I would like to express my gratitude to the Preksha team for supporting us. Dr. S.R. Ramaswamy has written a very beautiful tribute to Sri A.R. Krishna Shastri. We have included that in the Vachana Bharata translation, the essential Mahabharata. Our heartfelt gratitude to Dr. S.R. Ramaswamy for his constant guidance and support. And I have said this multiple times on the stage. Without Shatabdani Dr. R. Ganesh, our lives would have been meaningless and directionless. So, thanks to Dr. Ganesh for filling us with life. Thanks to them. And we would like to thank all our families. Now, without taking much time, let me very quickly introduce the calendar. Last year, that is this year, 2024, the calendar was on the Gupta sculptures, the temples belonging to the Gupta period. That is one golden age. And 1,000 years later, it saw a second golden age in the Vijayanagar Empire. And this year, we are presenting sculptures from the Vijayanagar temples. Very briefly about the Vijayanagar period, I guess many of you know what the greatness of Vijayanagar kings. If not for them, South India would have been another Pakistan. We couldn't have existed here. So all of us will have to be eternally grateful to the Vijayanagar kings and the spiritual guidance given by Madhavacharya, who later became Swami Vidyaranya, and his brother Sayanacharya. The spiritual guidance, and also Swami Vidyaranya very beautifully says, Jnanina charitum shakyam samyak rajyadi laukikam, a very favorite statement of the DVG as well, Padma Bhushan Dr. D.V. Gundappa. It was a very, very favorite statement of his. So under the leadership of the five brothers, Harihara, Bukka, Muddappa, Marappa and Kampana, the Vijayanagar Empire was established. So they were the right combination of wisdom, valor and benevolence. They protected the Sanatana Dharma, they preserved the Sanatana Dharma, they consolidated the knowledge and artistic tradition, they rejuvenated many of the forms which had been lost. So it was, in a sense, the true renaissance in the Indian tradition. While the Renaissance was going on in Europe because of the Christian onslaught, here to overcome the Islamic onslaught, this was the true Sanatana Renaissance. They contributed extensively to the Devalaya architecture and the culture. They were the ones who fortified multiple Devalayas, innumerable Devalayas in entire South India. They built very strong protective prakaras and very tall Raya Gopuras, like you see here. See, it's only in the Vijayanagar period that we see the Gopura being taller than the Vimana. Vimana is the main Garbhagruha, which houses the main deity, the main Vigraha. The Moolabera is housed in the Garbhagruha. Usually, until the Vijayanagar period, the Vimana used to be the tallest structure. But then, in the Vijayanagar period, the Gopura also sometimes doubled as an outpost to look at the invaders, to give protection to the entire temple complex. So they not only physically protected the temples, but also they realized that to give, to kind of culturally hold the Sanatana Dharma together, we'll have to encourage the vratas and the utsavas. Public utsavas were encouraged. That is why in the Vijayanagar temples we see proliferation of many kinds of mantapas. Kalyana Mantapa, Vasantavans Mantapa, Dolotsava Mantapa, etc. They were all contributions of the Vijayanagar period, the Raya Gopuras, the Prakaras, etc. Most of the temples were built out of granite, and like all of us know, Hampi was the capital city of the Vijayanagar kingdom. That is, the Vimanas are of the beautiful Dravida style. We see the pinnacle of the Dravidian, the South Indian kind of architecture in the Vijayanagar period. They were versatile in several medium, through several different raw materials. They have made sculptures. It could be the stucco images made out of brick and mortar, then stone, different kinds of stone, mainly granite, wood, bronze, relief sculptures, and huge monoliths. All of this was their contribution. And we can see the valor, the sense of valor, the Bauddhika valor and the physical valor. If you just look at the pillars of the Vijayanagar temples, you'll see Vyalakanta Stambhas, Simmakanta Stambhas, Ashwakanta Stambhas, etc., depicting that valorous perspective of the Vijayanagar kingdom. So that Kshatra, which had gone missing, that was supported and uplifted by the Brahmic support by Swami Vidyaranya, especially. And the literary contribution is extraordinary, belonging to that period. Kumaravyasa belongs there, Purandarasa belongs to that period, be it in Telugu, Sanskrit, Kannada, all the languages flourished very well. Let me not go into the literary or the Shastric contribution. We'll have a brief overview of the sculptures which are presented this time and a few poems which are presented. So that is the Virupaksha temple in Hampi, a very famous, a very iconic one. And on the left bottom, you see the Garuda Mantapa in front of the Vijayavitala temple that even today appears on the 50 rupee note, the famous one. And it is in the Vijayanagar period that we find remnants of many of the paintings on the ceilings. So this is one of the paintings from the Mahamantapa in the Virupaksha temple. So that is Kamadahana, Manmata shooting an arrow at Bhagavan Shiva, who is in tapas, and Shiva doing the Tripurasura Samhara. Very interesting. The combination of these two brought together there is very interesting. We also see several frescoes in Lepakshi. And these are the styles, this Vijayanagar style of painting has influenced many streams of later day paintings. the Mysore style, the Tanjavur style, and the Surapura style, all of them are derivatives of this Vijayanagar culture. In fact, it is them who started all this large-scale Navaratri celebration in the Mahanavami Dibba, etc., which was later continued by the Wadiyars in the Mysore region. So the contribution of the Vijayanagar empire cannot be exaggerated, extremely important to keep it in mind. So like with every year, we take examples of sculptures of various, depicting various different themes, and we map it on to different poems from the Sanskrit literature. We are not trying to say that this very poem inspired that sculpture or that sculpture inspired the poem. All that we are trying to show is that the poets, the sculptors, the painters, the dancers, the musicians, all of them belong to one organic spiritual cultural entity. It was a monolithic whole, and there was a constant interaction between all these kind of artists and scholars across timelines and across spaces. See, for instance, this poem is from Bhojaraja, belonging to the 10th century, but this is from the Ramaswamy temple, famously called the Hazara Rama temple in Hampi. It matches very well what the poem is saying and what the sculpture is showing. I won't spend too much of time. See, I mention this every year. The calendar will stay with you for one entire year. The sculptures and the poems are timeless, so you have quite a lot of time to enjoy them. But just drawing your attention to one nuance here, Rama is breaking the bow there. He has picked up the bow, and Janaka is seated on the throne there. You can see Lakshmana holding two bows, one of himself and the other of Rama. So they have paid this amount of attention to detail, the sculptors. Very interesting to note. This is a very, very famous Ashtaka. The story of Markandeya. Chandrasekhara Mashraye Mama Kim Karishyati Vai Yamaha. So if I am devoted to Chandrasekhara, who is Mrityunjaya, what can Yama do to me? So that is how the entire shloka goes. That is the Markandeya Krita Chandrasekhara Ashtaka, it is said. We see that Shiva's foot is emerging out of the linga, and it is kicking Yama, who is there, and Yama is holding the pasha in his hand. You can observe that as well. This is from Kurudumale near Kolar in Karnataka. We traveled to several different places, and Dr. Ganesh was there on most of the trips, and we have captured the photos together. Of course, the selection of the poems and the translation that was done jointly by Dr. Ganesh and Shashikaran. Thanks to them for doing this so beautifully. This is again from the Hazara Rama temple in Hampi. This is the display, Hanuman having given the ring to Sita. So the poem says that Sita was disappointed looking, she thought that she will see Rama's reflection in the ring. But she was disappointed that she saw her own reflection there. But then what does it mean? Rama's ring also has Sita in it. Rama has constantly been associated with Sita. So that is what she must have realized. But here she was really saddened because she was not able to see Rama. But Rama was seeing Sita everywhere. That is what we see in the Ramayana as well. Whether it is Kaga or Mruga or the Vriksha, etc. Everywhere he was asking and begging for them to reveal where Sita is. And these kinds of sculptures of Hanuman, they are again very famous in the Hampi, the Vijayanagar period. Also because the Hampi, the capital city, is Kishkinda, the ancient Kishkinda, where Rama also is supposed to have traveled, and that is where he met Hanuman, and that was the capital city of Sugriva as well. They provided so much of support, and such images, such relief sculptures of Hanuman, Veerabhadra, etc., they are found in all the temples of the Vijayanagar kingdom, as though they are humbly submitting themselves to the greater, the Sanatana Dharma itself. They represent the Hanuman Tattva itself. And it is also said that Swami Vyasatirtha, he established over 700 such Hanumans. Sometimes the tail comes above the head and there's a bell tied to it. Such Hanuman images he had established and inspired apparently. A very famous verse, Goshpati Kruta Varashim Mashaki Kruta Rakshasam Ramayana Mahamala Ratnam Vande Nilatmajam Anilatmaja. We bow down to that Hanuman who is like a very beautiful gem in the Mahamala Ramayana, and he Ganatattva Vandakke Dinaratri Manasotu. That is what DVG says about Hanumanta. Hanumanta Nupadesha Mankutimma. What do we learn from Hanuman? Hanuman submitting oneself to a higher, profound spiritual principle. That is what we see here. If you submit that way, then nothing will look as a very great challenge. Even the huge body of water, the ocean, was like a small puddle, goshpada. ಒಂದು ಹಸುವು ಹೆಜ್ಜೆ ಇಟ್ಟರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ನೀರು ಸೇರುತ್ತೋ ಅಷ್ಟಕ್ಕೆ ಇಟ್ ಗಾಟ್ ರೆಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಟು ದಟ್ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಹನುಮಾನ್ಸ್ ದೈವ ಭಕ್ತಿ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದೈವ ಶ್ರದ್ಧಾ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಲೈಕ್ ಕಾಳಿದಾಸ ಸೇಸ್ ಮಾರುತಿ ಸಾಗರಂ ತೀರ್ಣಃ ಸಂಸಾರಮಿವ ನಿರ್ಮಮಃ. Just like a person who has given up ahankara and mamakara, I-ness and mindness, he can transcend the samsara sagara. That is how Hanuman jumped over the ocean. It is said, what did Hanuman do? He did not do anything for his own sake. He saw that there is a dharmic man and a dharmic lady who was suffering, and he wanted to be a bridge to them, and he wanted to contribute whatever he could for the greater cause. So because of that submissive feeling, the entire ocean got reduced to a goshpada, to a small puddle. Mashaki Kruta Rakshasam. See, the Rakshasas came with so many different weapons and different kinds of ayudas. But Hanuman did not have any of the ayudas. Kriya Siddha Sattve Bhavati. Mahatam Nopakarane, as it is said. The Sattva, the Rama Sattva that was in him, the Sita Sattva which was in him, made all the Rakshasas get reduced into Mashakas, mosquitoes, like flies. They got reduced into flies, mosquitoes. So we bow down to that Hanuman, the shloka says. Another point is that in most of the cases, wherever possible, we have tried to map the sculpture to the particular month's festival. All the Sanatanic festivals, the Utsavas and Vratas have been captured, and all the great personalities who have contributed towards Sanatana Dharma, Swami Vivekananda, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, or their birthdays, Aradhanas, all of them have been documented here. This is another beautiful, iconic sculpture of Hampi, the Vijayanagar period, a monolithic sculpture of hard granite. It's also a painful sight because it was originally a Lakshmi Narasimha sculpture. We see the arm of Lakshmi still attached to Narasimha. So it's also a constant reminder of the threats that the society can pose onto the Sanatana Dharma, but the Kshatra of Narasimha will always have to be retained, will have to be kept in mind. The Bauddhika Shastra and the Daihika Shastra, Kshatra, the intellectual and the physical valor will have to be always retained. Now this is again a very rare sculpture. Nowhere in Bruhat Bharata, in the greater India, do we find a story of Shravana Kumara depicted. Very rare. In a couple of other places it is depicted. In fact, the original Ramayana does not even say the word Shravana Kumara, just Brahmana Kumara it has been said there. So this is Shravana Kumara carrying his blind and aged parents, and he is shot by Dasharatha through his Shabdavedi, that Vidya. So that is the shloka there. Aho bataika banena tulyameva hatastvaya aham andau cha vruddau cha pitarau eka putrakau. So through one arrow, by killing me, you have killed my parents as well. They were eka putrakau. I was their only survival inspiration. Because of me, they were surviving. Having killed me, you have killed 3 people at a time. So that is what this verse says. It is from Ramayana Manjari of Kshemendra. Now this is another very interesting sculpture from the outer walls of the Gudha Mantapa in the Lepakshi, the Veerabhadra temple in Lepakshi. This is Arjuna, who is standing on a single foot performing tapas for the Pashupatastra. Indra comes in the disguise of a Brahmana, and he says, before you conquer the external enemies, if you conquer your internal enemies, the Arishad Varga, then you can conquer anything else. This is something in alignment with what Chanakya also says. Rama also says in the Kachit Sarga something very similar. See, Kalidasa also, of course, says that, being inspired by the Valmiki and the Chanakya tradition. Here it's interesting that Indra, who is Indriyabhimani Devata, is giving that instruction to his biological son, Arjuna, who has come to acquire the Pashupatastra. He also directs him to perform tapas to Shiva. I'm not going into the details of the verse. The verses are very, very beautiful. The translation is also very adequate. Kindly have a look at it. This is Bhagavan Shri Krishna as a young boy, Purana Shishu as he's called, Purapi Navam. I think it was coined by Sudhir Krishnaswamy, or many other scholars also have said that. An existing etymology, epitome or an attribute of Krishna, Purapi Navam. Although ancient constantly knew who doesn't want a child like Sri Krishna. So such a lovable, such an adorable child has been tied to a varilikallo, to a mortar, right? So this is Leela Shuka, who almost coincided with the times of the Vijayanagara Empire. He's saying, Upanishad Artham Ulukhale Nibaddham. Why are you all you sages, all you rishis, you are doing all the rituals as prescribed by the Vedas, and you are in the Vedaranya. Don't go there. The Veda Artha, the Upanishad Artha, has been tied by a mother to a mortar in Gokula. Go there, you will get mukti. So that is what this verse says. This is from a pillar in the Ganesha temple in Kurudumale in Karnataka. Another very beautiful sculpture, a monolithic sculpture. This is famously called the Sasvekalu Ganapati. Again, this is a testimony to the fact that people belonging to all strata of the society contributed towards the construction of temples and making of sculptures, etc. The very word Sasvekalu indicates that this image was sponsored, patronized by a Sasvekalu, that is a mustard seed, a merchant of mustard seeds. And we also have this Kadlekalu Ganapati, again a monolithic sculpture. And see, this verse is the first one of the Mathura Vijayam, authored by Ganga Devi. Kalyanaya Satam Bhuya Devo Dantavalananaha Sharanagata Sankalpa Kalpana Kalpa Padapaha. Very beautiful to even hear. He is the very Kalpa Vriksha. Whatever Kalpana you have, if it is in alignment with the bigger Dharma, he'll definitely grant that. Kalyanaya Satam Bhuyat Devo Dantavalananaha. So that is the nature of Ganesha. Ganga Devi has written this Mathura Vijayam or Veera Kampana Devaraya Charitam. She was the wife of Kampana Raya. For people who have the wrong notion that women did not have access to education or did not have access to Samskrita Bhasha, etc., here is a testimony, to kind of prove that wrong. She has written a Mahakavya. She accompanied her husband on his battle, where he captured the Mathura Nagara, the Madurai, from the Sultanate and brought it back to the Sanatanic hold. The poem starts with this beautiful benediction to Bhagavan Ganesha. Another very beautiful sculpture from Kurudumale again, from one of the pillars in Kurudumale. This is assumed to be the sculpture of Shiva who is performing Bhiksha, and Parvati who is suggesting to him that let us be Krushakaras, let us be agriculturists. It's not nice to be nice to beg for food or go from door to door, begging for food. Rama Dhyachaya Medinim. So from Parashurama, let us take some soil, some land. And Dhanapater Bijam Balal Langalam. From Dhanapati, that is Kubera, let us loan some seeds. And from Balarama, let us take his plow. See, everything is available. Let us borrow something, but let us be active and let us be productive, right? And there is Yama's Mahisha, that is buffalo is already there. Its dung can be used. Your own Vrishabha is there. Nandikeshwara is there. He can be used to till the soil. Ulodikke avanu sahayಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದೇ ಬರ್ತಾನೆ ಅಂತ. ಮತ್ತೆ ಏನಾದರೂ ಅಡುಗೆ ಬೇಕಾಗಿದ್ರೆ ನಾನು ಅದನ್ನ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ, ಬೇಯಿಸುವಂತಹ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ. One can even extend. There is Ganga on your head and there is fire in your third eye, etc. So that cooking can also happen. And our son Kanda, he will do the Go Rakshana and all those things. So therefore, let us not go into begging. So this is, ಇದು ನಮ್ಮ ಸಂಸಾರಕ್ಕೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ರೀತಿಯಾದಂತಹ ಮರ್ಯಾದೆಯನ್ನು ತರಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ನೋ ರೀತಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಪಾರ್ವತಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇರುವಂಥದ್ದು ಒಂದು ಸುಭಾಷಿತ ರತ್ನ ಭಾಂಡಾಗಾರದಿಂದ ತಗೊಂಡಿರುವಂತಹ ಪದ್ಯ. And a couple of more sculptures. This is Vishwamitra coming to Dasharatha saying that only Rama will be capable of protecting his yaga. Una Shodasha Varshiyaha, even when he was not even 16 years of age, that is when his renown, his power, his valor was known to even to a Rishi like Vishwamitra. He had to come and face Vasishtha and also request Rama and Lakshmana, Rama especially. And when Rama goes, Lakshmana will naturally follow like a shadow. This is a very famous verse from the 11th Sarga of the Raghuvamsha. Kaushikena sakilakshitishvaro Rama Madvara Vighata Shantaye Kaka Pakshadhara Metya Yachitas Tejasamhi na Vayas Samikshate. So if the sattva, if you are really capable, your physical age does not matter. It's through your sattva that you can win. Tejasamhi na vayas samikshate. So your physical age does not matter. You can be a jnana vruddha, etc. Vruddhatva is of many kinds. Vruddhatvam jarasa vina, like Kalidasa himself says. It's not the bodily age that matters, but the mental maturity, the physical valor, which actually will contribute. Kaka Paksha, their young sidelocks were even still there. Dasharatha says that he'll come with his entire army. But then Vishwamitra says that Rama alone is sufficient to do it, and Lakshmana goes there. You can see the relative size of the sculptures here. Dasharatha is seated on the Simhasana, on a higher pedestal. Vishwamitra has those padukas as well. And Rama and Lakshmana are shown shorter in height, as though to suggest their age. They are just about 16 years of age. And finally, this is the story of Kirata Arjuniyam, where Arjuna, that it is a continuation of the previous sculpture that we saw, where Arjuna performs tapas to Bhagavan Shiva for the Pashupatastra, and there is this boar, Mukasura, who comes, and also Shiva comes in the disguise of Kirata. This is also from the outer walls of the Guda Mantapa of the Lepakshi temple. Okay, with this, we would all like to wish you all a very happy new year, new calendar year. The idea of making the calendar was initiated by Vasuki HA and Sri Ramachandra KBS, and it was taken up in 2017. So this is the 8th year that we are making the calendar. We have more or less covered many of the different dynasties in India across different timelines and different spaces. We started with the Badami Chalukyas, the Hoysalas, the Chandelas, and many other dynasties we have done. With another 3 or 4 dynasties, we would have covered the entire Bharata. Then we would also go to the Brihat Bharata and kind of wind up the study of the sculptures with the Padyas, perhaps. Thanks to everyone who has contributed towards this. Rajneesh of Sri Rajneesh of Gayatri Offsets has very beautifully designed the calendar. It used to be designed by Hari previously. Under his Margadarshana, under his guidance, Rajneesh has very beautifully designed. Thanks a lot, everyone. Namaste.
Thank you, Arjun. Just the paucity of time impels us to be very brief. I would like to request your indulgence for a couple of minutes. I request Vikram Phadke to please come on stage and deliver the vote of thanks.
This evening has been really beautiful, and continuing with the tradition of gratitude to everybody, I would like to propose the vote of thanks, and I don't have to do much because I have to only thank Hari and Arjuna. They have thanked everybody, but what are friends for after all? They lessen our burden. And for today's function, we have had Dr. H.V. Nagaraja Rao. It has been a blessing, sir. I thank Anand Vishwanathan for his erudite exposition on these books. Jaisima, of course, a dear friend of mine, comes with a lot of experience and scholarship. And Hari, who is the backbone for all of us, and what I can say, he is just family for me. And I would like to thank our advisors, Dr. S.L. Bhairappa, Shantakumari Madam, Dr. Satyavati, S.R. Leela, Sandeep Balkrishna. They have been advising us, guiding us. And I would also like to thank our chartered accountant and Saranga website maintenance, Sumana on social media, the social media content manager, Chandranatha Acharya for the Katha Sarit Sagara, all the sketches. And I would like to thank the Gokhale Institute, the Rashtrothana, Subbu Publications, Gayatri Prints, and I would, without the generous contributions of many people, we would not be here. And I would especially like to thank the Infosys Foundation, Srimati Sudhamurthy, the Development Foundation, MP Kumar, Dr. Vamanacharya, Satyanarayan Rao, Neelkanth Kulkarni, late Padma Krishnamurthy, Sudhakar Joyce, Karthik and Aparna, Gurutat Kudli, and all of you who have been a part of Preksha. and I am really grateful that you are all here. And though it's a vast crowd, it has been a really an intimate crowd. I thank one and all for having graced this occasion, and my pranams to all and everyone who have guided us so far. Namaste.